When I checked my college entrance exam scores, I got 0 in every subject. I wasn't the one who lost it. My cousin and her whole family went crazy. Little did they know, I had been reborn. In my past life, my cousin deliberately linked our exam papers through a system swap, so my scores became hers and hers became mine. In the end, despite being the top student in my grade, I didn't even get into a junior college. Distraught and unfocused, I died in a tragic car accident. This time around, I've chosen to quietly secure a direct admission first, and then take the college entrance exam. My whole game plan is to utterly destroy them. 1. When the college entrance exam results came out, I, who had always been top of my class, scored just over 200 points, not even enough for a vocational college. Meanwhile, my cousin Su Fei, who had never applied herself, scored 710. Tsinghua and Peking University were fighting over her. In a daze, as I walked out of the house, a synthetic voice suddenly echoed in my mind. Lin Wei's college entrance exam score of 710 has been successfully swapped with her cousin, Su Feifei. In 3 seconds, the one whose score was swapped will be erased by the system. As the countdown reached 0, I was hit and sent flying by a car that came out of nowhere, floating in the air. I watched my cousin's family surrounded by school officials and TV crews, and my mother, alone and carrying a urine bag, running desperately toward me. I can't even die in peace. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my senior year of high school. I could hear the mechanical, electronic voice of a system inside my cousin's mind. Congratulations, host, the Gaokao paper swap system, purchased with 30 years of your lifespan, has been successfully bound. If your Gaokao score exceeds 600 points, your expended lifespan will be tripled and returned. The person whose score is swapped will be erased. Otherwise, the host's entire family will be erased. Only then did I realize that my cousin's whole family was involved in this invisible murder. To this end, they mortgaged 30 years of their lifespans. Su Dalin, Sun Xinlan, and Su Feifei, 10 years each. How ruthless. Just for a college entrance exam, they actually summoned a murderous system at the cost of their own lifespan. 2. After the electronic prompt tone in my cousin's mind faded, a knock sounded at the door of the house. Uncle Su Dalin stood at the very front, followed by his wife and daughter. He was a small-time contractor with a bit of money, owning a large flat in the city. Back when my grandparents were still around, we'd at least see him during the holidays. After the older generation passed away, we wouldn't see hide nor hair of him all year, even though my mother is his own sister. But today, my uncle not only showed up in person, he also brought a whole bunch of things with him. He was all smiles. I heard my niece is the top student at First High, famous for scoring over 700 on every exam. I'm thinking of having Fei Fei stay here to study with her. Sis, you wouldn't say no to that, would you? How could my mom refuse her own brother asking for a favor? Besides, it was just a matter of setting an extra place at the table, so she agreed. Back then, even though I disliked my uncle, I was so focused on studying for the entrance exams that I didn't give it much thought. Little did anyone know, Su Feifei moving in was the first step in the system's grand scheme. My mother and I, completely oblivious, walked right into the trap my uncle's family had set. In this life, my mother is about to agree to it again, but then I, the tough girl, burst into tears. Uncle, I've decided not to take the college entrance exam. 4 pairs of eyes, wide as saucers, stared back at me in the room, especially those of Su Dalin, Sun Xinlan, and Su Feifei. The eyes of that family of 3 were even wider and rounder than my mom's, like people who had died of fright. Exactly, their whole family just bound their lifespans to the exam swapping system. If I don't take the college entrance exam, the entire family will be erased. Wouldn't all this effort be for nothing? Looking at their expressions, I found it rather amusing. We're just getting started, and things are already this interesting. My mother, who was in the dark, asked me cautiously, Wei, what's going on? Tell me, Mom has the money for your education, don't you worry about that. My mother had a hard life. Her parents favored their son, even though she scored first in the high school entrance exam. They didn't let her continue her studies. Instead, they married her off early, using the bride price to fund my uncle's education. Thankfully, my father, though poor, was a good man. Sadly, he was also ill-fated. He was killed when a concrete slab fell on him. My mother's family looked down on her for being poor and refused to help. My uncle used my mother's dowry to get an education, made something of himself, and then looked down on his own sister too. They saw helping her as a bad investment with no return, so they wouldn't lift a finger. My mother had to support the family and put me through school all by herself. while neglecting her own health and putting off seeing a doctor. In her previous life, she was already suffering from uremia at this point. Immediate treatment could have led to a full recovery, but she kept it from me, afraid that if I found out, I would skip the college entrance exams, the pain of never attending. University was something my mother remembered all her life, and she didn't want me to go through that same regret. She wanted me to soar out of poverty. She wanted me to embrace a life of boundless possibilities. She willingly carried the heavy burden on her own back, forging ahead for my sake. I remember how, after my death, my mother stumbled after the urine bag that had fallen from me. My heart ached unbearably. Given a second chance at life, I must find a way to save my mother, and I expect you, Uncle, to foot the entire bill and handle all the effort. 3. Seeing me with my head bowed, my uncle spoke up. Wei, why this sudden decision to skip the college entrance exam? If something's troubling you, you can tell your uncle. My aunt nodded her head like a chicken pecking at grain, saying, yes, 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 if there's anything you need help with, just say the word. Only my straightforward cousin, Su Feifei, blurted out with a shriek, cousin, if you don't take the college entrance exam, I'm done for. My aunt quickly covered her mouth. What Feifei means is, you're her role model. If you don't take the exam, it's like her favorite celebrity's reputation collapsing. She'd feel like there's no point in living either. Isn't that right, Su Feifei? Auntie glared. Su Feifei was so startled that she immediately started laying it on thick. Yes, cousin, other people's idols are top celebrities, but you're my idol. Everyone says with your grades, you're definitely going to be this year's top scorer in the Gaokao, if you don't take the exam. Think of how many young girls would be heartbroken. I watched her with a cold sneer. She certainly had a way with words. My heart was cold, but the look of pitiful vulnerability on my face remained perfectly intact. Uncle, you don't understand. My mother has uremia. Our family survives by scavenging scraps. How could we possibly afford her treatment? What good is getting into university? I'd be better off starting work early to earn money for her medical care. With that, I began to sob as I wiped my tears with my sleeve. I stole a glance at my uncle's expression. His expression at that moment was far from pleasant. How good could it possibly have been? Back then, after I got into a top high school, my mother, who had just lost her husband not long before, had to swallow her pride and ask my uncle to borrow 1,000 yuan for my tuition. My uncle refused without even glancing at the IOU my mother had written. Sis, don't be fooled by the fancy car and all the traveling. Truth is, I'm not really making much. Between paying the people who work for me, my wife's expenses, and my daughter's needs, it all adds up. Every single thing costs money. My mother was practically on the verge of getting down on her knees to beg him, but I stopped her. A man's pride is worth its weight in gold, and a woman's dignity is just as precious. In the end, I managed to borrow the money from my middle school homeroom teacher. Looking back now, it's a complete farce. Mom used the 120,000 yuan from her dowry to put my brother through school, yet she couldn't even borrow 1,000 yuan from him. Honestly, you could feed and care for a stray animal and it would show more loyalty. A brother like that is worse than an animal. I was still crying into my sleeve when Mom tried to comfort me. Oh, sweetheart, once you get into university after the college entrance exam, you'll be able to earn money and get me the treatment I need. Don't talk nonsense now. Have your cry, then let's get back to studying properly. How could Mom have known? I never made it into university, and she never got better. The day after I died, she followed me, for my miserly uncle just stared at me as I sobbed. He remained silent for a long time until my aunt finally pinched his arm and said through gritted teeth, Su Dalin, what are you waiting for? Say something. Do you want our whole family to die? Only then did my uncle stamp his foot hard and say, don't cry, niece, whatever the treatment costs, I'll cover it. My aunt chimed in at just the right moment. That's right, Wei, the college entrance exams are right around the corner. How can you skip them? Don't worry about the medical bills. Your uncle will take care of it. My mom was about to refuse again, but I quickly wiped my tears, grabbed my uncle's arm, and pulled him toward the door. The hospital said there's a kidney match available for Mom. We just need 500,000 yuan ready. Let's go to the hospital and pay the deposit now. I knew my uncle was a construction contractor, and I'd heard the rumors about him delaying his workers' pay. Who knows what excuse he'll come up with to put it off. When the time comes, he might be able to delay, but this patient can't afford to wait. Sure enough, Uncle stopped in his tracks, a troubled look on his face. Wei, you're still young, you don't understand. No one just has that much cash on hand. You need to give me time. I have to wait until I'm free to liquidate some funds and stocks from the bank. Well, would you look at that? They guessed it. Mom pulled me aside too, telling me not to give Uncle a hard time. I looked at Mom, who was completely in the dark. This wasn't about giving him a hard time, it was about letting him make amends when he eventually goes to the 18th level of hell. Maybe the little demons will let him skip one trip over the mountain of knives. I managed to squeeze out a couple more tears and pulled out my phone. Mom is right, I was putting Uncle in a difficult position. I'll call my homeroom teacher right now, go withdraw from school later, and head to Guangdong to work tomorrow. Seeing that I had actually dialed the teacher's number, Uncle snatched the phone and hung up. I'll go get the money right now. Your mom is my own sister. How could I possibly not help when she's sick? I smiled triumphantly. I haven't even secured my guaranteed admission yet. Why on earth would I drop out? The number I dialed from my homeroom teacher was actually 10086. It's just a matter of changing a note. Easy. 5. Money really does make a difference. As soon as the 500,000 was paid, my mom was admitted to the best hospital that very day, and a kidney donor match was secured. My uncle and his whole family urged me to go back to school so I wouldn't fall behind in my studies. I cast a worried glance at the hospital room. If I leave, who will take care of my mom? My aunt quickly reassured me. Wei Wei, we've already hired a caregiver. Meals will be delivered 3 times a day, and someone will stay with her overnight. You really don't need to worry about a thing. I waved my hands in protest. Uncle, Aunt, you've already spent so much money, it would be thoughtless of me to let you pay for a caregiver on top of that. My uncle said, hiring a caregiver isn't that expensive. Wei Wei, you really should focus on your studies. Looks like I need to spell it out for them, otherwise they just don't get it. I took out the wash basin. I just heard from Granny Wang's family next door that the orderlies here are all too eager to take your money, but when you actually need something done, they're nowhere to be found. Also, I pointed towards an auntie in bed 14. That auntie over there also said that when she needs to use the bathroom at night and calls for the orderly a few times, she gets her thigh pinched for it. My eyes welled up. Taking care of someone really has to be done by family, otherwise, you just suffer. The couple fell silent. Uncle excused himself to have a smoke, and Aunt promptly followed him out. Mom took my hand and said, Wei Wei, I'm fine, you should go back to school and study. I smiled at her and said, don't worry, let me wipe your face first. In my past life, after Su Feifei moved in, my uncle and aunt would buy me all sorts of nutritional supplements every day and constantly ask about my grades with concern. Both my mom and I thought it was genuine care and were deeply touched. Later, when my aunt broke her leg, she complained the hired caregivers were unreliable and had my mom look after her for over half a month. She didn't pay a single cent for it, and my mom never said a word, but on multiple occasions, I overheard my aunt on the phone saying, what's so good about it? She reeks of sour sweat. It makes me sick just having her touch me. If it weren't for saving a few bucks on a caregiver. She didn't name names, and I didn't think much of it at the time. Looking back now, I realized she was talking about my mother. She owes my mother, and before she dies, I'll make sure she pays back every last bit. Clear as day. 6. I was on my way to fetch water with a wash basin when I heard my uncle, Su Dalin's voice from behind the fire door. How about you stay here and look after her for a few days? My aunt, Sun Xinlan, shrieked. Su Dalin, have you lost your mind? This isn't a matter of a few days. The doctor said she needs to stay in the hospital for at least 2 months after the surgery. With someone staying overnight for the first month, we'd even have to help her with the toilet. Let me tell you, I never even did that for my own mother. Uncle Su Dalin tried to placate her. Look at it this way. With Lin Wei's grades, getting into Tsinghua is practically a sure thing. Once that happens, our deal with the Lida group will be in the bag. He paused, then continued. Look, even in the absolute worst-case scenario where she doesn't get into Tsinghua, Lin Wei's score hitting the system's 600-point benchmark is a sure thing. Fei Fei will get into a top university. Our whole family's lifespan will triple, and you're making a small sacrifice now. It's a good deal. My aunt's resentment seemed to ease a little. Well, in that case, you'll have to buy a villa each for my parents and my brother. Su Dalin agreed eagerly. Once the college entrance exams are over, you can have anything you want. I snorted coldly, picked up the water, and walked into the hospital room. You can't just have whatever you want. That's up to me. 7. Before long, the two of them came in one after the other, standing by the hospital bed. My uncle said, Big sister, Wei Wei is right. A hired caregiver really isn't reliable. It's perfect timing. Xinlan studied nursing, so let her take care of you. After saying this, Uncle looked at me. Wei Wei, you can rest easy now, right? Of course I could rest easy. I always knew my aunt had studied nursing, but she quit her job after she latched onto my uncle. With her solid professional knowledge and over 5 years of nursing experience, she's definitely more capable than me or any hired caregiver. Otherwise, she wouldn't be fit to take care of my mother. I quickly stood up. Then I'll have to trouble you with it, Aunt. They thought it was finally over and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Little did they know, I piped up again. If it's just Auntie taking care of her, staying in this shared ward would be really tough. Uncle, you dote on Auntie so much. Could you really bear to see her suffer? I deliberately used a playful tone, making it seem like I was admiring their affection for each other. No other reason. I just wanted Uncle to shell out a fortune to move my mom into a private suite. It has a refrigerator, a TV, and a microwave. With a private bathroom, one-on-one nursing care ensures your needs are met faster than anywhere else. More importantly, there's two-way video monitoring. This way, my aunt can diligently care for my mother under my watchful eye, allowing me to focus on my college entrance exam preparations with peace of mind while staying in constant communication with my mom. It's just that this private room costs 10 times more than a standard one, over 1,000 a day. Uncle glanced at Aunt but said nothing. I quickly imitated the green tea actresses from TV dramas, lightly patting my own mouth. Oh, look at me, so inexperienced in love. Uncle must have already planned to switch to a private room. That's why he's willing to have Aunt come take care of Mom, right, Uncle? I glanced at my aunt, who was also glaring daggers at my uncle. Sue Dolan, that tightwad, quickly tried to placate my aunt in a fawning manner. Honey, of course not. How could I bear to let you sleep on a metal cot for 2 months? I've already taken care of it. I'll go pay right now, and we'll move to a private suite. 8. After my mom's surgery, I threw myself into preparing for the guaranteed admission with a sense of urgency. Whenever I got tired from studying, I'd take a look at my mom on the monitor. Sun Xinlan really is a trained professional. Even the nurses sometimes seek her advice, but you know how it is with people. Without someone keeping an eye on you, you're bound to slack off. Sometimes when I studied until 3 a.m., my mom needed to get up, but I felt bad waking her, so I just forced myself to get up on my own. Through the video call, I could tell my aunt was actually still awake. I'll take the easy way out whenever I can. I deliberately spoke up in the video call. Mom, Auntie has been working so hard taking care of you. Maybe starting tomorrow, I should be the one to look after you. Our family can't let my college entrance exams ruin Auntie's health. Look how exhausted she is. She must be utterly worn out. She's so deeply asleep we can't even wake her. It's truly heartbreaking, hearing that I was considering abandoning my studies again to come care for my mom at the hospital. Sun Xinlan immediately sprang up like a carp leaping from water, scrambling to support my mother. Wei Wei, you just focus on your review. Auntie isn't tired at all. I don't know what came over me just now. I must have dozed off for a moment and fallen right asleep. Ever since then, Sun Xinlan knew my eyes were on her every second. She didn't dare slack off in the slightest, terrified that I'd feel sorry for her and step in to take care of my mom. As if I'd ever feel sorry for her. I'm studying hard, just like they told me to. It's just that what I'm studying for is the Tsinghua University Early Admission Exam. 9. In my past life, when Su Feifei moved into our house, my aunt saw my study materials and casually remarked, "This doesn't look like Gaokao prep material." I had just told my mom that I had qualified for the early admission entrance exams. She simply shared the good news. Wei Wei passed the preliminary screening for early admission. She's now preparing for the individual university exams. If she gets in, she won't need to take the Gaokao. Ah, my uncle's whole family sat bolt upright. If you get the early admission, you won't have to take the college entrance exam, my uncle muttered to himself, glanced at my aunt, and the whole family exchanged a look. That profound, shared glance sealed the fate of my failed early admission. Su Feifei lived and ate with us, so she quickly found out about my oat allergy. On the day of my college entrance exemption exam, she kindly made me a cup of milk. After drinking it, I had a severe allergic reaction and was hospitalized. It was later discovered that the milk I drank contained oats. Su Feifei kept apologizing, even slapping herself in the face right in front of me, saying she deserved to die. It's my fault, sister. I shouldn't have accidentally given you the glass of milk I was drinking from. She grabbed my hand and said, "But cousin, you still have the college entrance exam. Your grades are so good, you're definitely going to get into Tsinghua." I found her utterly repulsive. I shoved her away, and Su Feifei ended up smacking her head against the wall. My teachers and classmates had all felt sorry for me about losing the guaranteed admission. But after this collision, they started to think I'd gone a bit too far. That damn little schemer. I barely even touched her, but from that moment on, I knew Su Feifei was a real piece of work, although I've never been able to figure out why she was so intensely invested in every single detail of my college entrance exams. If I so much as mentioned some top-secret exam papers at the dinner table, she'd have my aunt buy them at a high price right away. Only now do I realize that she would destroy anything that stood in the way of my college entrance exam. But what if the one standing in my way is her? 10. If my uncle hadn't mentioned Lita Group at the hospital, I would have almost forgotten about someone like Song Cheng. He was handsome and came from a wealthy family. When he cornered me at the school gate and shoved a handful of love letters at me, my classmates were stunned. Wei Wei, how on earth do you know the heir to the Lita Group? I heard he has a girlfriend from the same school named Su Weiwei, and she's incredibly possessive. Anyone who dares to speak to Song Cheng gets dragged to the bathroom and slapped. You'd better be careful, don't get mixed up with that crowd. I wanted no part of that terrifying love triangle. It scared me so much I even changed the time I headed home. In this life, the moment of my rebirth also occurred after Song Cheng gave me that love letter. However, after returning, we never ran into each other, that is, until I secretly took the Tsinghua University early admission exam. On my way back, I bumped into Song Cheng and his father at the airport exit. I walked up and greeted Song Cheng. I also mentioned how much I admired Chairman Song and asked if we could take a photo together. Song Cheng quickly introduced me. Dad, this is Lin Wei, the top student in her grade at City No. 1 high school. With her scores, she's very likely to be our city's top science student. Chairman Song gave a thumbs up, and the three of us snapped a picture. So, I anonymously posted that photo to the campus confession wall. Rumors started flying in no time. I saw Song Cheng come to our school to give Lin Wei a love letter before. I never thought things would progress this fast. The top student in the grade paired with the son of the city's richest man. This storyline is going to be juicy. Wasn't it said that Song Cheng's girlfriend was Su Feifei from the same school? Have they already broken up? Don't you all know, Chairman Song has long said that to become his daughter-in-law, one must get into Tsinghua or Peking University. I skimmed through a few comments and then went back to peeling an apple for my mother by her hospital bed. My mother's surgery was a great success. My aunt took care of her day and night, tending to all her needs for over 2 months, which allowed me to focus on my studies and participate in the early admission recruitment. The results came in this morning. Seeing I had time to visit the hospital, my aunt urged me. Wei Wei, there's no need to come. Your mom is being discharged tomorrow. You should hurry back and study. My uncle was there too, and he said, the college entrance exam is right around the corner. Don't drop the ball at this critical moment. Go home and hit the books. Little did they know, I had already received a guaranteed admission to Tsinghua University. What's there to review? Review how their whole family got me and my mother killed in our past life. Review how they cold-bloodedly schemed against us, step by step, in this life. It's time they learned what true despair feels like. 11. Halfway through peeling the apple, Su Feifei stormed in. She kicked the hospital room door open, pointed at me, and yelled furiously, Lin Wei, you bitch, how dare you try to steal my boyfriend? I blinked my big, innocent eyes. Cousin, what are you talking about? I don't understand what you mean, she yelled. I've seen the photos. Tell me, what did Song Cheng and his father say to you? I pretended to think for a moment, then said, oh, nothing much, just that if I get into Tsinghua, he wants me to marry into the Song family and become the young mistress of the Lita Group. I would never have been able to utter such cheesy, novelesque lines in my past life. In this life, though, I can rattle them off without a second thought. Su Feifei's eyes indeed reddened with fury. You agreed. I shrugged and said evasively, it's not so bad, is it? Su Feifei was grinding her teeth so hard I thought they'd crack, and then she lunged at me. Lin Wei, you're delusional. You'll never pass that exam, and even if you did, that score would be mine. I'm the one who's going to be the young madam of Lita Group. I'm the one who's going to be Song Cheng's wife, a trash picker's daughter like you. Thinking you can turn a sparrow into a phoenix, keep dreaming. The force behind her lunge was considerable, but brute strength is no match for technique. All I did was shift my weight to the side, and Su Feifei went flying past, landing flat on her face. Thud, she fell flat on her face. Her aunt rushed over to help her up, saying with concern, you're so impatient. What's the rush? Adults will be adults. Su Feifei was still too impulsive, after all, but look at my uncle and aunt. They're different, even when I make wild claims, hinting that I might steal their future son-in-law. They don't get flustered anyway, with the system in place. I'll be eliminated as soon as I finish the college entrance exam. It's all just empty talk right now. It doesn't count for anything, however. My next sentence made them completely unable to stay seated. 12, I said, little sister, since you say I'm just daydreaming and won't get into university, and that even if I did, the credit would be yours. I plopped down on the stool. Then I just won't take the exam. My unflappable uncle quickly stood up. Lin Wei, what nonsense are you spouting now? See, you're getting flustered, not calling me niece anymore, or Wei either. You're using my full name. Since he's about to drop the act, I won't bother being sarcastic with them anymore. I glared at him. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't just say whatever you want. I stand by every word I say. Can Su Feifei say the same? With that, I started pulling out my phone. Uncle, aunt, it's not that I don't want to take the college entrance exam. It's that Su Feifei doesn't want me to. You all heard it yourselves. Not a single word I said was a lie. Right. My voice choked up as I called my homeroom teacher to tell him I wouldn't be taking the exam. I had the phone on speaker, and my homeroom teacher shouted from the other end, Lin Wei, what nonsense are you talking? You've already. I quickly hung up because I knew exactly what his next sentence would be. You've already been admitted to Tsinghua University. Why on earth would you need to take the Gaokao? I can't let my uncle and his family hear this now. I've got other plans, after all. My uncle, Su Dalin, was a burly man standing at 1.8 meters tall. He started out as a construction worker and was powerfully built. When he saw that I had actually called my homeroom teacher and said I wouldn't be taking the college entrance exam, he was so furious he kicked Su Feifei right in the stomach. You useless waste of money, can't do anything right, only know how to ruin things. Hurry up and apologize to your cousin. Su Feifei clutched her stomach, pain causing cold sweat to stream down her face. Aunt Sun Xinlan hadn't originally intended to scold her own daughter, but once that call was made, she knew I was dead serious. She immediately began to seethe with rage at her daughter. She gave up her comfortable life as a lady of leisure to stay here, tending to her rag-picking sister-in-law, changing bedpans and wiping her down, all while neglecting her own sick mother. She endured all this humiliation and hardship, all for the moment Lin Wei took her college entrance exams, just as she had finally nursed Lin Wei's elderly mother back to health and seen her discharged from the hospital. The college entrance exams were right around the corner, and now, her own daughter had gone and ruined everything. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She raised her hand and slapped Su Feifei with a resounding crack. What are you still doing on the floor? Go apologize to your sister right now. I remained seated, unmoving. Mom was utterly dumbfounded. Watching the scene unfold, she couldn't understand what on earth had happened during her illness. I whispered to comfort her, Mom, I'll explain everything to you later. For now, please don't ask any questions. I looked at Su Feifei, her face red from being slapped. In my past life, when I was hospitalized due to an allergy, Su Feifei put on a show of slapping herself in front of everyone, with just a couple of light slaps to her own face. The whole incident was brushed aside and forgotten. I remembered what my classmates said. Anyone who dared to speak to Song Cheng would be dragged into the bathroom and slapped by her. I thought to myself, since Su Feifei enjoys putting on such a slapping performance so much in this lifetime, I'll make sure she gets to perform to her heart's content. 13. Su Feifei also realized that her impulsiveness had ruined everything. She crawled to my feet and whispered, Please, dear sister, I was wrong. Forgive me. You can't throw your own life away by skipping the college entrance exam just because of me. I didn't even look up. Weren't you just calling me a filthy bitch? How am I your dear sister now? What's your face made of? How can you switch gears so fast? Su Feifei looked at her mother, who was glaring at her viciously, and her father, who looked ready to kick her at any moment. She knew she had no way out. Gritting her teeth, she slapped herself hard across the face. Cousin, it's my fault. I shouldn't have made such vile accusations and called you a whore. I'm the whore. I raised an eyebrow, signaling for her to continue. Su Feifei slapped herself again. Cousin, I was wrong. I shouldn't have spouted such nonsense. Your score is yours, fair and square. No one can take it from you. This whole family is just biding their time, swallowing their pride, waiting to see me make a fool of myself. Little did they know, I had already written their ending. I waited until Su Feifei had slapped her own face into a swollen mess before I finally spoke. it's not impossible for me to forgive you and let you take the college entrance exam, but I have one condition. 14. In my past life, after I died, Su Feifei didn't just steal the exam scores that were rightfully mine, she took my life and my mother's too. They even took the memories that belonged to my father. The ramshackle hut my father left for my mother and me before he passed away was seized by my uncle. They threw out my father's portrait. They took scissors and cut up our family photo of the three of us. All those things, so precious to me, were tossed out like trash in this lifetime. I will make them feel it too, I said. I want that luxury penthouse of yours downtown. My uncle was stunned. My aunt's eyes went wide. Su Feifei's face was swollen like a balloon, and her words were slurred. But I understood her perfectly. She said, that was bought with Dad's life. Of course I knew that. Why else would I ask for his house instead of just taking the money? Before my uncle became a contractor, he was a skilled tradesman with his educational background. If he had pursued further training and climbed the certification ladder step by step, he could have become a technical supervisor and made good money. But back then, he was looking for a shortcut. The son of a city official needed a kidney transplant. He secretly got tested, found he was a perfect match, and donated it for free. That one kidney bought him a construction project, which earned him an apartment and a car, and that's how he got that luxury penthouse. Asking Uncle to give up this apartment would be like asking for his life. Sure enough, Uncle said with a stern expression, Lin Wei, that's enough. Whether you take the college entrance exam or not is none of our damn business. If it weren't for me, your uncle, seeing your good grades and wanting to discipline you properly on your father's behalf, so that if you get into university in the future, our Su family might bask in a little reflected glory. Since you're a hopeless case, why should we even bother? Elder sister, from now on, I'm washing my hands of your family's affairs. Wife, Feifei, let's go. As the family walked out, Uncle Su Dalin finally saw the light. First, he spent over 700,000 on his elder sister's medical treatment at Lin Wei's request, and then, again following Lin Wei's lead, he had his wife act as a free live-in nurse for his sister for over 2 months. He had been dancing to his niece's tune this whole time. On what grounds? It was precisely because the whole family, acting out of a guilty conscience, was so desperate to push her into taking the college entrance exam. Now it dawned on him that he should act as if the system didn't exist, as if Big Sister would ever actually allow her own daughter to skip the college entrance exam. But Su Dalin was mistaken. The moment he left, I immediately told my mom about the guaranteed admission, including the part about being erased by the system. When I told my mom how she died alone, hooked up to a urine bag in her past life, she didn't cry. I told Mom that she didn't even cry when our house was taken over by my uncle in our past life. It wasn't until later, when I described how I was erased by the system and killed by a car, that Mom began to sob. She said, my dear daughter, don't start trouble, but don't shy away from it either. If someone wrongs you, you have every right to stand up for yourself. Do what you believe is right. I will always stand by your side. 15. I asked the school to keep my early admission confidential for now. If anyone asks if it's true that I'm not taking the college entrance exam, just say that's the case. After sorting all that out, I really stopped going to school and spent every day helping my mom with her rehabilitation exercises. I hadn't even been home for 3 full days before my uncle's family couldn't hold back any longer. He tried to persuade my mom, Sis, are you really going to let your daughter skip the college entrance exam? She's got what it takes to get into Tsinghua. My mom sighed. I'm old and useless now. What say do I have over her? Then he turned to me, Wei Wei, if not for your own sake, then think of your poor father. He would have wanted you to get into university and bring honor to his name. I laughed and said, my dad came to me in a dream. He told me that more than going to college, he wanted me to get a big house for Mom and me. Since my uncle can't make that happen, I'll work for it myself. That couple talked themselves hoarse trying to persuade me, but I just wouldn't go back to school. The college entrance exams were right around the corner. I could afford to wait, but they couldn't. Finally, my uncle made up his mind. He took me to transfer the property title. The title transfer is just the first step. I'm worried he'll try to stall and refuse to move out. Just tell him I won't go back to school until he moves out. My uncle had no choice. He transferred the title in the morning and arranged the move in the afternoon. When it was time to move, I started causing trouble again. I said, according to the contract, nothing can be taken except for the essential documents. My uncle stomped his foot in anger. Those are all personal belongings for our family of 3. What good are they to you? I shrugged. It's clearly stated in the contract. if you're so curious, you can stand there and watch to see exactly what use they are. Then, my uncle and aunt watched as I had the workers take down their perfectly preserved wedding photo. It was all smashed to pieces and thrown in the trash. I had their mattress torn to shreds. Sue Dahlin, Sun Miling, and Su Feifei watched, heartbroken, as I directed the workers to haphazardly dispose of their personal belongings. Sun Miling wept until her body went limp. Oh heavens, she sobbed. This is the home I've lived in for over a decade. Su Feifei also began to cry. Dad, she said, our cousin has cost us our home. Only Su Dahlin watched it all with a dark, brooding gaze. He said, once the college entrance exams are over, all this will be ours again. He said, wife, daughter. Don't forget, we still have the system. Su Dahlin didn't hesitate at all to mention the system in front of me, thinking I was clueless, but the truth is, I've been reborn, I know everything. They had everything planned out. 16, all to make sure I wouldn't skip the college entrance exams. My uncle, Su Dahlin, was in charge of driving me around those days. They called it a ride, but it was really just surveillance. Not that it mattered anymore. Once the college entrance exams were over, everything would be finished. I was always the first to hand in my paper for every subject. The TV crew would say as soon as they saw me come out, young lady, you're the first one out of the exam hall again. What's your secret to finishing so quickly? Secret. The secret is I just sat there staring at the paper for half an hour. I didn't write a thing. Only her clueless uncle beamed with pride. She's the top student at First High, famous for being #1 in her grade. Of course she finishes fast. I could sense the joy in my uncle's heart. I overheard him on the phone that night. He said, honey, just one more day to go. Once the exams are over, we'll be free. I know living in a rental isn't comfortable, but it's only for another month. He was dreaming aloud. By then, Feifei will get into Tsinghua with her scores and marry the song heir from the Lida group. Our projects will be endless. Forget buying your parents one apartment. We could buy 3. Sometimes he'd grind his teeth and snarl when the system finally wipes out Lin Wei. I'm going to set off firecrackers for 3 whole days to celebrate. Oh, my poor, foolish uncle, you'll get fined for setting off firecrackers in the city. Besides, it's you lot the system is going to eliminate, not me, but I'm not going to say it. We'll talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow, 17, when the final exam was over, I was once again the first one to walk out of the examination hall. The reporter then asked me, classmate, could you tell us exactly how you managed to finish the exam so quickly? My uncle was absolutely beside himself with excitement. I already told you, Lin Wei is the top student in her grade. Of course she finished quickly. However, when no one was looking, he leaned in and whispered in my ear, Lin Wei, the time has come. Let me tell you, Feifei wasn't lying. You'll never get into university because the score you earn will become Feifei's score. A sparrow can never become a phoenix. I gave a scornful laugh. Is that so? Well, I'll be waiting to see it. Once the college entrance exams were over, I never saw my uncle and his family again. It was to be expected. To them, I had outlived my usefulness. They were just waiting for the system to erase me, so they could come collect the body and take over my house. I saw them again on TV. That was the day the National College entrance exam results were released. Uncle Su Dahlin, along with Sun Xinlan and Su Feifei, were in the Lida group office. The room was still packed with journalists. Uncle Su Dahlin said, Chairman Song, your son promised my Feifei that he would marry her if she got into Tsinghua University. He's not going to go back on his word, is he? In the footage, a hospital patient admission record could be seen flashing by. There was also a handwritten letter of guarantee. Chairman Song's expression was stern, but as an entrepreneur, he had to maintain a positive public image. He nodded and said, my word is my bond. Uncle Su Dahlin's hands trembled as he spoke. Good. I truly admire Chairman Song's character, which is precisely why I brought reporters here to witness this. Feifei, come on, it's time to check your score. Uncle Su Dahlin was brimming with confidence. He had done his homework thoroughly before linking with the system. Among his blood relatives, the only one with the ability to get into Tsinghua University was undoubtedly his niece, Lin Wei. Her exam scores never dipped below 700. He was already daydreaming about his business growing bigger and bigger, eventually surpassing even the mighty Lida group. But the next second, a reporter's voice shattered his daydream. 0 points. Are you kidding me? A0. And they had the nerve to call me here. What a waste of time. I could be interviewing the real top scorer. What 0 points? Seeing the reporters huddled in discussion, Uncle Su Dahlin snatched the phone from his daughter's hand. He was completely oblivious to the fact that Su Feifei's expression had gone blank, as if her soul had left her body, however. When he looked at the phone screen, Chinese language, 0 points, mathematics, 0 points, English, 0 points, and the science composite score was 0 too, he let out a strange cry. How is this possible? It can't be. Lin Wei is the top student in her grade, a city-level academic ace. How could she possibly score 0? No one understood what he was saying, but I knew exactly what Su Dalin was getting at. The next second, my phone rang. Watching him on the live news broadcast, I answered it. Su Dalin's face was contorted with rage, his voice a guttural snarl that seemed to rise from the depths of hell. Lin Wei, how on earth did you manage to score a 0? What do you know? But no matter what, scoring 0 on the college entrance exam means you won't get into university. What good does that do you? I gave a faint smile. Uncle, you haven't heard. I've been granted early admission. I only took the exam to mess with you all. Su Dalin refused to believe it. How could you possibly have gotten an early admission spot? I had Feifei keep an eye on you. I would have known the moment you left the city and done everything in my power to stop you. I sighed. Well, you can blame your precious daughter for that. I just forged a few love letters in Song Cheng's handwriting and sent them to her. I also told her that the 2 days I was away in Beijing for my exam were actually the anniversary of Song Cheng's mother's passing. I had her copy scriptures 1,000 times in the mother's memory and then hand them to me for inspection. She completely forgot about keeping an eye on me after that. She spent a solid 2 days and 2 nights copying those scriptures. By the time she had slept soundly for another 2 nights, I was already long back. Uncle's mind was in a whirl. He was shouting at his daughter, demanding she say something, while at the same time clutching his head in agony. Impossible. There's no way you got a guaranteed admission. I guided him patiently. Turn on Yuqing Channel 3, and you'll see if I'm telling the truth. Uncle Su Dalin snatched the remote control and switched on the LCD TV in Chairman Song's office. Yuqing Channel 3 was broadcasting. This year, our city has 3 students admitted to Tsinghua University. Among them, Lin Wei from Yuqing No. 1 high school was granted direct admission. On screen, it was a clip of me being interviewed, with a piercing scream. Su Dalin jumped from his 33rd floor office. The journalists were thrown into a state of panic. Before anyone knew it, Su Feifei had already run downstairs, with her aunt's son Miling chasing after her, trying to catch her. Almost simultaneously, both of them were struck by a massive truck. At that moment, my mind synchronized with the mechanical, system-like voice in their heads. Dear host, we regret to inform you that the Great Exchange has failed. You did not meet the system's requirement of scoring over 600 on the Gaokao. Your entire family will be erased. 3, 2, 1, thump, thump. Thump, 3 bodies hit the ground simultaneously. The scene was utterly horrific. I hung up the phone, standing in my newly purchased home. Beyond the large floor-to-ceiling window, the setting sun bled crimson across the sky. As the saying goes, evil begets evil. Retribution may be delayed, but it never fails to come. It is also said, life and death are but an instant, so too are virtue and vice. Only the righteous path endures forever. Full story complete. Story 2, my junior sister and I simultaneously chose to form spirit-beast contracts. My black serpent successfully ascended into a dragon, making me the first cultivator in our sect to possess a draconic spirit companion, but her white fox spirit-beast perished during the metamorphosis stage, and though her cultivation remained incomplete, inner demons took root. When I tried helping her overcome these demons, she ambushed me, running me through with her sword. Reborn at the covenant ceremony, my junior sister rushed to claim the black serpent as her spirit beast. I congratulated her on her discerning choice. This lifetime, it's her turn to become the serpent's cultivation blood bag. Nor, Storm, step forward. My chest tightened painfully when I heard my name called, nearly making me stumble. Storm steadied me with a grin, saying, the spirit beast selections got you so excited you're tripping, senior sister. I wrenched my arm from Storm's grasp. This was the very hand that had killed me. Whirling around, I found myself standing in our sect's training grounds. The sight of 2 figures, one dark, one light, confirmed it. I'd been reborn during the bonding ceremony. Our master instructed Storm and me to choose spirit beasts for bonding. One was an unremarkable black serpent, the other a wounded white fox. In our past life, Storm believed the injured fox would at least become more majestic than the black snake, which could only evolve into a mere water serpent at best. So Storm claimed the fox, leaving me to bond With the leftover black snake unexpectedly, the fox's wounds never healed. It died shortly after. Meanwhile, my black serpent cultivated at an astonishing pace, transforming into a rare obsidian dragon, making me the first disciple in our sect to form a pact with dragonkind. Storm, unwilling to accept defeat, sought other spirit beasts, yet after her first companion's gruesome death, weaker creatures feared bonding with her, while her limited power barred access to worthy stronger ones. Without a spirit beast's guidance and driven by reckless ambition, Storm's cultivation backfired, plunging her into demonic chi deviation. When our master sent me to purge her inner demons, Storm ambushed and murdered me instead. Senior sister, how could one wrong choice lead to such vastly different fates for us? I refused to accept this, still lost in memories of my past life. Storm spoke first. Master, this disciple wishes to form a spirit contract with that black serpent. I looked up at Storm, who flashed me a triumphant smirk and whispered, Senior sister, this time I've seized the advantage. So she'd been reborn too. I feigned ignorance and congratulated her on finding a spirit beast that caught her fancy. The black serpent Cyrus lay limp in Storm's palms, looking utterly exhausted. In our past life, it was precisely this feeble appearance that made Storm misjudge him. Before my death in the previous life, I only saw Cyrus descending amidst howling storms, though I never witnessed what followed. Given his vicious nature, he surely painted the land red with blood. This time around, I'm grateful Storm claimed him first, sparing me from forming a contract with Cyrus and becoming mere fuel for his draconic ascension. Storm had no idea what awaited her. Glancing at the motionless white fox, she remarked, Senior sister, your fox doesn't look well. You'd better take good care of it. If it dies, you'll lose your spirit beast. I stepped forward to pick up the fox, but it unexpectedly scratched my hand, drawing blood instantly. Seeing this, Storm grew even more smug. Feigning concern, she asked, Master, what should we do if Senior Sister's spirit beast rejects her? When a spirit beast refuses to acknowledge its master, it usually means the cultivator lacks sufficient strength. Even the beast finds them unworthy. For practitioners, this is a humiliating disgrace. In her past life, Storm also suffered a swipe from the white fox, which humiliated her before the entire sect. She locked the fox in a cage, denying it food, water, or medical treatment, claiming she'd break its pride, yet its wounds festered, and within a month, the creature perished. My master watched me with concern, but I shrugged it off, ignoring the fox's struggles. I grabbed it by the scruff and hauled it up. The fox thrashed in fury before swiftly losing consciousness. I laid the white fox on the bed, its tail broken halfway with the wound already festering. As I cleaned its wound, it suddenly woke up and instinctively swiped at me with its claws. Before understanding the situation, after I bandaged its wound while holding it down, it immediately dragged its tail to huddle in the bed corner, growling at me with visible fury. Seeing its reaction, I had no choice but to leave the room to give it space. I sat meditating in the courtyard, pondering what course to take. In my past life, Cyrus served as my spirit beast, a glamorous facade. While he successfully transformed into a dragon, my cultivation never progressed. This lifetime spirit beast arrived wounded. Healing him would consume precious time, and his rejection of me makes rapid cultivation progress through our bond impossible. As dawn's first light touched the earth, I resolved to rely solely on my own relentless effort. As I pushed the door open, the white fox curled up on the bed instantly startled awake, eyeing me warily, too. Seeing fresh blood seeping from his tail wound, I forced several precious medicinal pills down his throat. Despite his struggles, I reassured him, I understand you never wanted this bond. Once you've recovered, we'll break the contract and you'll be free to go. The fox whimpered skeptically, his distrustful whines dripping with stubborn defiance. Can't you speak properly? I can't make sense of your gibberish. The white fox glared at me with deeply offended eyes, refusing to even make a sound. Storm was also there when I went to see my master. I noticed the tall, expressionless man beside her. Cyrus had already completed his transformation. He gave me a fleeting glance, his eyes cold and distant. I kept telling myself, he doesn't remember me, he's no longer my spirit beast, and he can't hurt me anymore. The master and fellow disciples praised Storm's prowess, saying his bond with Cyrus was a match made in heaven. Beaming with pride, Storm nestled against Cyrus and taunted, Senior sister, my spirit beast has mastered transformation. Where's your white fox? Don't tell me it failed its metamorphosis, or worse, that you carelessly let it die first. The master reassured me, your spirit beast may be injured now, but once healed, It'll surely aid your cultivation. A slight delay in progress means nothing, I said to my master. Disciple wishes to study the Heart Sutra. My declaration shocked everyone. My master, Storm, even Cyrus. Cultivating the Heart Sutra requires no spirit beast assistance, but the process is grueling and time-consuming. Practitioners with spirit beasts would never choose this method. I explained to my master that the white fox's injuries were severe. It couldn't aid my cultivation for at least a year or two. Proud and willful even while wounded, it had scratched me. Once healed, it would never submit willingly. Perhaps I should face reality sooner, cultivate the Heart Sutra alone, then sever our contract once his wounds heal. Storm sneered. Senior sister, are you admitting you can't even tame a half-dead fox? Storm clung to Cyrus's arm, her gaze brimming with provocation and smugness. Her gloating made it clear she'd lost all reason. She completely missed how Cyrus's eyes lacked the trusting devotion other spirit beasts showed. Just before leaving, Cyrus suddenly turned and gave me a lingering glance. I couldn't fathom why he looked at me that way, so I pretended not to notice. After my master passed the Heart Sutra to me, I resolved to first heal the white fox before entering seclusion for cultivation. The Shoyang Mountain grows millennium-old Solomon's seal, renowned for healing wounds and prolonging life. Though vicious beasts guard its surroundings, fellow disciples who returned from herb gathering described the demonic beast as a giant earth dragon that lurks underground, ambushing and devouring unsuspecting herb seekers. Though it sounded perilous, I took heart knowing my peers had returned safely with the herbs. Surely I could do the same. The white fox resisted joining my quest, thrashing violently until I swaddled its flailing limbs in my robe and carried it onward. Immobilized, the fox glared at me with utter indignation. Just as I successfully found the Solomon's seal on Shoyang Mountain, the demon beast appeared right on cue. After dodging several attacks, I finally realized the beast wasn't targeting me. Its true prey was the white fox cradled in my arms. 3. Remembering how previous herb gatherers returned unharmed while their spirit beasts all perished here, the truth struck me. These monsters feast on magical creatures, not humans. Looking down at the fox's tightly shut eyes, I understood his violent reaction when hearing our destination. He thought I was using him as bait. I tightened my embrace around the white fox and whispered, "I won't feed you to that demon beast." The fox regarded me with wary suspicion. The ravenous demon beast grew increasingly frenzied in its attacks, coiling around me in an attempt to swallow us both, until my blade pierced through its palate into its skull. As the creature collapsed with a thunderous crash, I flung the fox from my arms, only to be pinned beneath the monster's lifeless bulk. The demonic beast weighed a ton, crushing me beneath it. My legs must be broken. I couldn't crawl free, and my vision was fading fast. Before blacking out, I saw the white fox digging up golden root with its paws, devouring it ravenously, completely indifferent to my paralyzed state. When I came to, I was still pinned under the beast. A piece of golden root lay within reach, but the white fox was nowhere in sight. My legs throbbed with pain as I gnawed on the golden root, desperately plotting my escape. Just as I finished eating, 2 more pieces of Solomon's seal fell from above. Looking up, I saw the white fox perched atop the demon beast's head. I gasped in surprise. "You didn't leave." The white fox leaped to my side and nudged the Solomon's seal toward my hand, urging me to eat. The Solomon's seal worked wonders. The pain in my leg faded almost instantly. With great effort, I crawled out from under the demon beast's corpse and scooped the white fox into my arms, noticing his wounds had healed except for a pinky-length stub of a severed tail. I couldn't resist reaching out to touch it, wondering if the tail would ever regrow. The fox startled upright, ears flattened against its head as it stared at me with an indecipherable noise. Only then did I realize I'd accidentally touched his rear, and immediately began apologizing profusely. After returning to the sect, I visited Mount Shoyang to gather herbs. Fellow disciples who'd lost their spirit beasts grew uneasy when they saw me not only bring back the white fox but also heal its injuries. I pretended complete ignorance, claiming I'd merely fought off a demonic beast attack, though not without difficulty, and successfully slain it. I carefully avoided mentioning the beast's consumption of spirit creatures. Storm scoffed dismissively. "What's the point of healing it? Still just a tailless fox." Though only a few days had passed, Storm appeared noticeably paler and weaker. I couldn't be bothered with her. But as I passed by, the white fox in my arms suddenly pounced, leaving bloody scratches across her face with its claws. I yanked the fox back into my arms and spoke before Storm could complain. "Junior sister, this fox has always been proud. Why provoke him for no reason?" Furious, Storm demanded Cyrus teach me and the fox a lesson. When Cyrus approached me, I instinctively stepped back, a reaction that only fueled Storm's smug satisfaction. I warned Cyrus to back off, and the white fox in my arms seemed to sense my tension, letting out a threatening growl. Cyrus simply smirked, placing his hand on my wrist, his fingers tracing suggestive circles on my skin. His fingers were ice cold, slithering across my skin like a serpent's tongue. Shuddering, I tried to wrench free, but he held firm, until Storm intervened, pulling Cyrus away while demanding sharply, "What the hell are you doing?" Cyrus stared at me like a snake eyeing its prey. "Senior sister's skills are profound. I wonder when I might have the honor of sparring with you." As Storm dragged Cyrus away, she shot me a glare over her shoulder, a silent warning not to compete with her for Cyrus's attention. While I was still staring at Cyrus's retreating figure, my arm was suddenly nudged. Looking down, I saw the white fox squinting up at me. He growled twice, but I couldn't understand, my mind preoccupied with Cyrus's ambiguous attitude. I found my gaze drifting back to his silhouette. A sharp pain shot through my arm as the white fox unexpectedly bared its claws at me. I couldn't understand what had provoked it, but guessed it might still be upset about Storm mocking its bald tail. Trying to comfort it, I said, "You'll recover for sure. Even if the tail doesn't grow back, you'll still be the most beautiful fox in our sect." Only then did it show a somewhat satisfied expression and retract its sharp claws. Now that the white fox had grown strong enough to avoid premature death, I began practicing my heart sutra. The white fox showed no interest in cultivation, content to simply curl up beside me day and night without causing any disturbance. After 6 months of secluded practice with the 13-layered Heart Sutra, I'd only reached the second layer. Feeling disheartened, my master reassured me that even he would likely still be on the first layer after half a year of cultivation. I hadn't seen Storm in all these months. When she burst in unexpectedly, she looked a full decade older. She came searching for Cyrus. I asked why she thought her spirit beast would be at my place. Storm remained silent. After failing to find Cyrus here, she didn't leave immediately. She mocked me for stubbornly practicing mental cultivation despite having spirit beasts to rely on. I told her cultivation is meant to strengthen oneself. If one isn't willing to endure hardship, they shouldn't have chosen this path to begin with. But Storm took it as me mocking her lack of dedication and flew into a rage. I detected anxiety in her words. She was genuinely worried about keeping up with Cyrus's rapid progress. After Storm left, I resumed my training, something coiled around my waist. When I opened my eyes, the white fox was gone. Instead, Cyrus had wrapped his serpent tail around me. Cyrus stared at me and demanded, "I'm clearly stronger than that fox. Why won't you choose me?" For a moment, I thought Cyrus had reincarnated with memories of his past life. He released me, shifting into human form the instant his feet touched the ground. Leaning closer, he whispered, "Our cultivation levels are perfectly matched. Why refuse me? Dual cultivation with me would bring you more pleasure and progress than your solitary meditation." It dawned on me then. Cyrus retained no past life memories. He sought me out solely to exploit my power for his own advancement. Flashes of those dreadful memories from my past life surfaced, and I hastily pushed him away, mistaking my reaction for shyness. Cyrus pressed on with his honeyed words, "That useless fox is nothing compared to me. Soon I'll become the one and only obsidian dragon across all realms. You've already formed a spiritual pact with my junior sister. Whatever form you take, you'll always be her bonded beast. That has nothing to do with me." Cyrus chuckled. "Your junior sister has mediocre talent and slacks off in cultivation, always clinging to me instead. She's utterly unworthy. In this entire sect, you're the only one fit to stand by my side." His words about Storm were true, but truth often stings. My gaze shifted to the doorway, where Storm had unexpectedly returned. Her face was deathly pale, with reddish bite marks visible on her neck. In our past life, Cyrus forced me to cultivate relentlessly for his draconic ascension, then deceived me into dual cultivation to drain my power. Now he's doing the same to Storm. Though Storm clearly heard Cyrus' words, she didn't blame him, instead accusing me of seducing her spirit beast. 5. Her commotion drew a crowd of fellow disciples. "Senior sister, back when we were choosing spirit beasts, you rejected Cyrus for being just a little black snake. Now that I've finally helped him achieve human form through great effort, you come to steal him away. How utterly shameless." Seeing Cyrus in my chamber late at night while Storm wept pitifully, all the disciples condemned my misconduct. Tongue-tied with no defense, I watched as Cyrus, the instigator of this whole affair, remained utterly unperturbed, even suggesting, "Since everyone already thinks this way, why don't we just go with the Flow and form our cultivation pact. Cyrus's words were cut short by a clear, aristocratic male voice. Wait, the blue-robed youth pushed past his fellow disciples blocking the doorway and stepped before me. I studied the handsome man before me with puzzlement, his expressive eyes bright and alert. Feeling an odd sense of familiarity, Storm demanded, "Who are you? Why are you at our sect?" The man shot her a glance. "Want me to claw your face to shreds again?" That disdainful look, that mocking tone, I knew exactly who he was in an instant. Storm covered her face. "You're that fox. You actually mastered human form." The white fox introduced himself as Griffin, eyeing Cyrus up and down. "Sneaking in to steal someone's lover at midnight. How shameless. Nor told me I'm the most handsome fox in our entire sect. With me around, she'd never look your way," Cyrus scoffed. "You're the only spirit beast fox in their whole sect. I wonder who you're comparing yourself to when you claim to be the most handsome." Griffin shot me a glance, and I felt a pang of guilt. I'd just been saying whatever would please him in the moment, though we hardly had any chemistry. Even I knew better than to undermine Griffin at a time like this. I told Cyrus, "To me, he's the most handsome. We've no interest in comparing with others, but matching up against you, that's child's play." Griffin's expression softened with smug satisfaction as he glared at Cyrus. "Hear that? Nor and I are doing just fine. Stop meddling. I was only gone for a moment, and here you are trying to steal her away." The senior disciples finally caught on. "Junior sister, this spirit beast belongs to you. Keep him in check. Sneaking into our senior sister's chamber in the dead of night. This is outrageous." Storm glanced guiltily at Cyrus. Her every move was clearly under his complete control. Cyrus shifted his gaze from Griffin to me and muttered, "Wasting your cultivation to help such trash achieve transformation and form a bond. What a disgrace." Only Griffin and I heard his words. Griffin was so furious he nearly threw a punch, but I stopped him. After Cyrus and Storm left, the rest of our sect brothers dispersed as well. Griffin remained seething with anger and warned me never to speak to Cyrus again. Better yet, not even look his way. I gave a nonchalant nod when Griffin suddenly leaned in, whispering, "If dual cultivation could enhance your powers, I wouldn't mind making the sacrifice." No sooner had I kicked Cyrus out than Griffin pulled the same stunt. My face darkened instantly as I shoved him out without hearing his excuses. Locked outside, Griffin whined pitifully, "I was just joking, Lin Nor. Open the door already." Ignoring him, I listened to his muffled pleas until the corridor finally fell silent. The next morning, I found Griffin in his true form lying at my doorstep. Though he could shape-shift into human form, his tail remained bare and patchy. Noticing my gaze fixed on his tail, Griffin immediately leaned against the doorframe to block my view. "It'll grow back soon," he muttered with visible embarrassment. After a pause, he added, "Once my tail fully recovers, my true form will definitely look more majestic than your junior sister's dingy little snake." I couldn't fathom why he'd developed this rivalry with Cyrus, but paid it no mind. Instead, I simply told him I'd be entering seclusion for cultivation training. Griffin asked what he should do, so I told him to go wherever he pleased and do as he wished. 6. I borrowed my master's cave for secluded cultivation, planning to stay at least a year or two, but was summoned back after barely 2 months. With a grave expression, my master informed me Griffin had committed a terrible offense. His newly accepted female disciple was found brutally murdered in the mountains, and the entire sect believes Griffin to be the killer. Before meeting Griffin, I first went to examine the deceased. Her body bore several rope-like bruise marks, with only small puncture wounds on the neck and wrists but no other visible injuries. My master said sorrowfully, "This was the new disciple I took in during your seclusion, brilliant and full of promise. Who could have foreseen such a tragedy?" Griffin was confined in a cramped cage, too small to assume human form, his once snow-white fur now filthy and matted. The moment he saw me, he let out a pitiful whimper. "Nor, I didn't kill anyone. She was already dead when I found her. I didn't even know her. Why would I kill her?" Before I could speak, Storm snapped at him, "You murdered our junior sister to steal her cultivation, and now you dare deny it. As a spirit beast, you've advanced so quickly without training under our senior sister. You must have resorted to dark arts." Storm then pointed behind Griffin. His once severed tail had miraculously regrown into a full, fluffy tail in such a short time. Griffin tucked his tail beneath him, pleading with puppy dog eyes for me to believe him. "I'm your spirit beast," he whimpered. "I'd never lie to you." Seeing his pitiful look, I couldn't help but reach out and pat his head. Griffin immediately nuzzled against my hand like an affectionate pet. My master interrupted. This spirit beast refused to acknowledge any master before and never trained with you, forcing you to start practicing the Heart Sutra. Now this fawning behavior is just to manipulate your sympathy. After my master spoke, I felt Griffin tense up beneath my hand. Just as I was about to defend him, Storm spoke. Up, Cyrus saw him right beside Junior Sister's corpse. Of all the spirit beasts in our sect, he's the only one who's been separated from you without supervision. If he didn't kill her, who did? All the evidence seems to point to Griffin, but right now I suspect someone else more. I turned to the silent Cyrus and asked, so you only saw Griffin near the body, but didn't actually witness the murder? If you'd found the corpse before him, couldn't Griffin just as easily accuse you? Cyrus narrowed his eyes at me, while Storm stepped forward in his defense. Senior Sister, your spirit beast clearly killed Master's new disciple. Why are you dragging everyone else into this? Seeing them about to leave, I grabbed Cyrus by the arm. As a witness, you're not going anywhere. Cyrus didn't shake off my hand, but Storm shouted instead, Senior Sister, are you trying to shield your own spirit beast, or steal mine? Griffin raised his eyes at the words, his glare ambiguous, whether directed at me or Cyrus. I kept my grip on Cyrus, sensing a bizarre energy coursing through him. Storm's accusation fit perfectly. Such rapid cultivation could only mean forbidden methods. Releasing Cyrus, I addressed our master. Griffin is my spirit beast, my responsibility. Entrust him to me, and I swear justice for our fallen junior sister. After everyone left, I turned to Griffin and saw him burying his head between his front paws. I reassured him, I know you're not the killer. I'll find a way to clear your name. He lifted his head and demanded, why are you practicing the Heart Sutra? That's for cultivators without spirit beasts. Do you think I'm not good enough to assist your training? Here he was, facing life or death accusations, yet fretting over such trivial matters. I explained, when you scratched me during the bonding ritual, I understood you didn't want this. I told you, once you're healed, we can dissolve the contract and you're free to leave. If we're ending this eventually, what's wrong with me practicing the Heart Sutra in advance? Griffin actually got angry at this. You'd abandon me over one scratch. If you plan to discard me all along, why risk injury hunting demons for my medicine? Lin Nor, you're putting words in my mouth. I never mentioned dissolving the contract. Or is this about your junior sister's black serpent? His temper flared as he spoke, tail bristling while shooing me away without hearing my side. Though Griffin's furious with me, I still need to find a way to save him while surveilling Storm and Cyrus. I dared not get too close to their chamber. When I heard Storm's screams and pleas for mercy, I nearly fled. Soon those cries turned into moans before fading into silence. Cyrus did the same to me once, luring me with promises of mutual cultivation benefits that only ever served his own advancement. By the time I realized the deception, Cyrus had far surpassed my cultivation. He threatened to harvest our entire sect for his practice if I ever revealed the truth or broke our pact. My cultivation surpasses Storm's. In our past life, Cyrus only needed to refine me to successfully ascend as a dragon, unlike this lifetime where he's draining others' cultivation. If he truly wishes to hasten his draconic ascension, he'll never stop at this. I've been eavesdropping for days but found no leads whatsoever. 2 horns have already sprouted on Cyrus' head, and Storm keeps gloating about it to me. I warned her that Cyrus's transformation was fueled by others' cultivation and flesh. She should be wary of him. Storm didn't believe me, thinking I was just jealous instead. 7. It wasn't until our master scolded her for her severe decline in cultivation that she finally listened. Somewhat, our master cautioned her. When the power gap between a cultivator and their spirit beast grows too wide, the cultivator risks backlash. If she couldn't match Cyrus's growth, breaking the contract would be wiser. Storm protested unwillingly. Master, I'll work hard to catch up with Cyrus. Besides, he'd never let anything happen to me. Seeing her face glow with trust and tenderness at Cyrus' mention, I asked in bewilderment, why do you trust him so completely? Storm locked eyes with me, because I've witnessed the thunderous wrath he unleashes when avenging those he cares about. Then I understood. In our past life, after Storm killed me, Cyrus slaughtered her and countless innocents in retribution. To Storm, this was proof of Cyrus valuing me, and in this life, as his bonded partner, Cyrus would cherish her just as he had cherished me in the past. Ridiculous. He simply disregards human life. Killing comes effortlessly to him. This was vengeance, pure and simple. Where's the proof of his regard, and what good would his favor even bring you? I pointed at Storm's throat. the only one he truly values is himself. To him, you're just a tool for cultivation, naturally. Storm didn't believe a word I said. I faintly heard a gust of wind and looked up just in time to see the massive form of Cyrus. Soaring overhead, though not yet fully transformed into a dragon, his horns and claws already bore draconic features. Storm gazed obsessively at Cyrus. You're only saying this to drive a wedge between me and Cyrus. You're just jealous that my spirit beast is nearing dragonhood while you have nothing. I had no heart to persuade Storm further, only wondering how Cyrus's cultivation could progress so rapidly. Griffin was still furious. The moment he saw me, he immediately turned his back and started whipping the cage bars with his tail, but when he heard me mention going down the mountain, his anger vanished. He looked at me anxiously. Why are you leaving? Are you really trying to abandon me, Lin Nor? I've been obediently staying in this tiny cage just to spare you trouble, otherwise I would've. Without waiting for Griffin to finish complaining, I reached into the cage to stroke his head. Griffin arched his back. Torn between resistance and affection. What are you doing? Don't think a few pats will make me forgive your irresponsibility. I went down the mountain to find evidence to clear your name. Stay put and wait for my return. Griffin finally softened his stance, nuzzling my hand of his own accord. I left the sect and spent over half a month traveling before returning. I reported my findings to the master. I've visited the nearest sects as planned, just as I suspected. Several deaths occurred recently with identical markings to junior sister's wounds, proof it's the same perpetrator. Here are signed letters from the respective sect leaders and elders corroborating my claims. When I handed the letters to my master, I noticed he didn't open them immediately, his expression clouded with concern. I pressed on. Master, 2 murders occurred while Griffin was imprisoned. This proves his innocence. Could we release him now? My master sighed. Griffin collapsed inexplicably after you left the mountain. Since he's innocent, take him home and tend to him. I never expected this. When I saw Griffin, he lay motionless in the cage, his fur dull and lifeless. I cradled him in my arms, his breathing steady with no visible injuries. The master said, we've examined him but can't determine the cause. Since you formed a pact with him, try to rouse him. I laid Griffin on the bed and placed my hand against his forehead, closing my eyes. I sensed a faint thread connecting us in the darkness. As my focus deepened, this bond grew more tangible and distinct in my consciousness. It suddenly struck me that continuing like this would only strengthen the bond between Griffin and me, making our eventual separation more painful and difficult. As I hesitated, the invisible thread in my consciousness suddenly tensed, as if someone at the other end had given it a sharp tug. I turned to Griffin and saw he'd already opened his eyes, perched on the bed with his tail curled around himself. He deliberately adopted a haughty tone. Since you're willing to maintain our contract voluntarily, don't you dare mention dissolving it again. When I asked Griffin why he'd fainted, I noticed him avoiding eye contact. How should I know? He muttered, probably from being cooped up in that tiny cage. My body couldn't adjust. His excuse sounded fishy. Just as I pressed for answers, he cut me off. Our pact is unbreakable. Don't even think about ditching me. That's downright irresponsible. Griffin's eyes gleamed like polished amber, and suddenly I felt like a fly caught in his web. I opened my mouth to question him, but Griffin suddenly arched his back, gaze locked warily on something behind me. I turned around just as a plume of black smoke came rushing toward me. As I collapsed, all I saw was Griffin leaping in front of me, morphing into human form midair to catch me before we hit the ground. When I came to, the first person I saw was Storm. Of all people, her eyes were vacant, cheeks sunken, hair brittle. The exposed skin showed massive bruises in varying shades. I barely recognized her. To my surprise, Storm looked genuinely delighted when she saw me wake. She grabbed my hand urgently and pleaded, Senior sister, I'll give Cyrus back to you. Will you form a cultivation pact with him? I shook off Storm's hand. Have you lost your mind? Before Storm could explain, she caught sight of Cyrus approaching. Panic flashed across her face as she stammered, I am still persuading Senior sister. She'll definitely agree. 8. Useless. Cyrus's gaze softened with patient tenderness when he looked at me. The moment I heard him call my name in that familiar deep voice, I knew. Cyrus, I'll never form a pact with you again. He seized my hand and pulled me back to him. You've returned too, haven't you? I remember everything now. Cyrus claimed he'd avenge me by killing Storm in our past life. Yet here he was, wanting to renew our bond. We're the perfect match. Both Storm and that fox are far too weak. Had Storm not beaten us to it this time, we'd have already formed our bond. And I'd have ascended as a dragon by now. I won't let Cyrus use me as a tool. Again, he's still trying to avoid an outright confrontation, desperately clinging to that gentle, forgiving facade. Storm, however, grew desperate, dragging Griffin out in that obsidian cage and outright threatening me to break our current pact and bond with Cyrus instead, or he'd kill Griffin. Griffin's fur was matted with blood, utterly battered. Only the faint rise and fall of his breathing proved he still clung to life. Once Griffin dies, Cyrus can forcibly bind with me against my will. Whether I refuse or agree won't change the outcome of Cyrus forcing me. The only difference is whether Griffin's life gets spared. I consented, closing my eyes. I found a slender thread within the mental realm where consciousness meets void, the very tether binding Griffin and me. I'd long prepared to sever our bond, yet now I couldn't bring myself to cut it. When my fingers touched that thread, it seemed to sense my intention, vibrating like a lute string with a tremor that sent instant pain through my skull. Storm pinned me down, hissing, "This is your fault, senior sister. Had you explained the bonding ritual properly, I'd never have taken Cyrus from you." Storm, you're blaming others for your own mistakes, 2 lifetimes wasted and you've learned nothing. Griffin awoke with a pained gasp from his unconscious state, realizing my actions. He cried out in desperate alarm, "Lin Nor, you're trying to abandon me again." Griffin thrashed desperately in the cage, just as my pain became unbearable. An impatient Cyrus choked my neck with one hand while pressing the other against my forehead. A spectral hand materialized in my consciousness and severed the connection with a single tug. The headache vanished instantly, leaving only a hollow void behind. Simultaneously, I heard what sounded like bones snapping. I turned to face Griffin, his golden eyes locked intensely on me. His body began swelling inside the cage, bursting the iron bars apart as shattered fragments shot outward like arrows. Cyrus grabbed my shoulder and leaped from the room just as the entire house collapsed in an instant. Through the swirling dust, a white blur lashed towards Cyrus. As Cyrus dodged away, the shadow coiled around my waist and dragged me back into the swirling dust. I landed softly on the ground, hearing Storm's moans. She lay nearby with a dark steel shard embedded in her abdomen. Storm begged for my help. "Senior sister, I was wrong. I shouldn't have competed with you for Cyrus. Please save me." Her plea was cut short as terror flashed across her face. Following her gaze upward, I saw a pair of enormous golden eyes gleaming through the white void. Griffin's colossal form, larger than any house, loomed over me as 9 magnificent tails swirled behind him. Legend spoke of the 9-tailed divine fox in Qingqiu. Now witnessing Griffin's true form, I understood those tails were real. Storm's expression shifted from shock to regret before erupting into a bitter scream. "You're Qingqiu's 9-tailed fox. Had I known, I would have chosen you, tended your wounds properly. Why do I keep making the wrong choice lifetime after lifetime? Why?" Ignoring the distraught Storm, Griffin looked down at me. Before he could speak, Cyrus' draconic tail suddenly lashed out. This time it was Griffin who carried me to safety in his jaws. After setting me down, he charged towards Cyrus midair. 9, dragon and fox, black against white, clashed amidst the clouds. Moments later, Cyrus plummeted from the sky and crashed heavily onto the ground. His dragon horns were broken, making him look less like a true dragon and more like a mere serpent, drenched in blood. Cyrus swept his gaze around before skimming low across the ground towards Storm, his fangs catching her garment as he flung her upward. Storm barely had time to let out a shriek before Cyrus swallowed her whole. Even after devouring Storm, Cyrus remained unsatisfied, his eyes locked onto me. "Nor, you sacrificed much to help me ascend as a dragon in your past life. Aid me once more in this life, and I shall never forget you." I wouldn't trade my life for his lingering thoughts. I turned and ran toward Griffin, taking cover behind him. Realizing he was no match for Griffin, Cyrus fled in the opposite direction, only for Griffin's multiple tails to suddenly elongate and ensnare him. All I heard was Cyrus' agonized roar before his body was gruesomely torn apart by the constricting tails. I found Storm's corpse covered in filth, her eyes wide open in eternal unrest. After living through 2 lifetimes, she still met this bitter end. Griffin flicked blood off his tail with a proud expression, as if waiting for me to speak. Seeing my master arrive with fellow disciples, I told him, "Your transformation succeeded and the contract is void. You're free now." Griffin stared at me with unspoken words, then let out a resounding cry before soaring into the clouds and vanishing from sight. After my superficial wounds healed, my master instructed me to choose a new spirit beast for bonding. He repeatedly assured me that this time, he'd help me select a powerful yet gentle-tempered spirit companion on the bonding ceremony day. Besides me, the newly enrolled junior disciples would also choose their spirit beasts. as the senior disciple, my master granted me first selection rights. My gaze swept past the spirit cats and cranes before settling on a small white pup, his round, hopeful eyes locked onto mine, silently willing me to choose him. The master said, "Noor, fate seems to have brought you and this white hound together. Why not take him?" After a moment's thought, I pointed to a molting songbird beside the pup. "Master, I'd rather have this poor lark. She's injured and looks so pitiful." I noticed the puppy first looked startled, then turned to growl at my master. After a brief pause, my master immediately said, "Haven't you always favored fluffy spirit beasts? When did your preferences change? Can't you see you share a special bond with this white hound?" Despite my master's persistent recommendation of the white hound, I firmly chose the colorful finch, already cradling her in my hands to reassure, "Don't worry, I'll definitely heal you and make you beautiful again." I glanced at the white hound, who was nibbling its tail tip while gazing at me longingly, and added, "After all, I have plenty of experience raising spirit beasts with scruffy tails." The colorful finch was now staring nervously at the white hound, trembling in my palm without daring to chirp, just as I stubbornly prepared to form a pact with the finch. The white hound suddenly transformed into a massive white fox. Griffin glared at me. "Noor, you've got peculiar tastes. Got a thing for tailless creatures, huh? Should have gnawed my own tail off before coming to find you." Setting the finch down, I asked why he'd returned. Griffin put on a tough act. "I never agreed to sever our contract." He materialized in human form, glaring at me with arrogant defiance as if demanding, "Why aren't you choosing me already?" But as my silence lingered, nervousness crept into his demeanor, his gaze now carrying the subtle plea of a fishing hook's gentle tug. I tilted my head and commanded, "Change back." Griffin froze. "Change back? I do prefer my spirit beast fluffy." Griffin's expression shifted from surprise to amusement. "Where are your eyes? You'd rather admire fur than this dashing figure of mine." Despite his grumbling, he transformed into a snow-white fox and leaped into my arms. As Griffin wrapped his fluffy white tail around my wrist, I felt the bond between us rekindle. Story 2. My cousin and I bound the apocalyptic transmigration system at the same time. In my previous life, I chose the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse, while she chose the genre of the innocent and pampered heroine. I managed to have enough food and clothing and made a fortune in the apocalypse by farming. However, she was abandoned by the powerful figure and thrown into the zombie horde, and was surrounded and eaten by zombies until she died. Given a chance to live again, she chose the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse, one step ahead of me. But the reason why I can farm well is that I'm an agriculture major. 1. When the apocalypse arrived, my aunt was visiting our home with my cousin. I have to say, a woman still needs to take good care of herself. Look at your Gabriella. Why is she learning farming? Her little face is sallow. Which man would like that? My aunt was wearing a mink coat, high heels, and a delicate and heavy makeup, she said to my mother with a look of contempt. After a while, she began to brag about her daughter Mila, who was majoring in dance. She had a slender figure, and her little face was as beautiful as a lotus flower emerging from the water. Many wealthy young masters were chasing after her. Only by taking good care of oneself and marrying a rich man can this be a woman's career. Neither my mother nor I paid attention to her. I was watering the garlic sprouts I had planted on the balcony, and my mother was making soup for me in the kitchen. However, Mila, who was highly praised by my aunt, didn't have her usual look of pride on her face. She bit her lips tightly and looked nervous. Seeing that no one was paying attention to her, my aunt was extremely angry but didn't dare to flare up. She was about to leave with my cousin. "Mila, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and leave." Seeing that Mila was standing still, my aunt urged. Mila forced a smile. "Mom, you go first, I'll be back later." I was puzzled. In the previous life, she looked down on my mother and me and immediately went downstairs without thinking. Why was she acting so strangely this time? My aunt had just gone downstairs. After a while, she came running back upstairs screaming and locked the door tightly. "Ghosts, ghosts." I went up to the window on the balcony and took a look. The zombies were limping downstairs with their twisted postures, covered in blood and unknown stains, looking extremely terrifying. Sure enough, just like in the previous life, the apocalypse had arrived. I silently counted in my heart, 3, 2, 1. A mechanical female voice sounded. "Congratulations to the two hosts for obtaining the apocalyptic transmigration system. Please choose from the following 2 books." I choose the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse. Before I could open my mouth, and even before the mechanical female voice could continue the introduction, Mila answered first. My heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, she was also reborn, and she took the lead in choosing the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse that I had chosen in my previous life, too. In the previous life, when the apocalypse suddenly broke out, the four of us were trapped in my 80 square meter small house. Just when we were at a loss, the system suddenly appeared and told Mila and me that we could bind two apocalyptic novels at the same time and obtain the luck of the heroines in the novels. Mila rushed to bind the novel about the innocent and pampered heroine, because she heard the system say that by binding this book, her appearance would become even more beautiful and charming, making the powerful figure fall in love with her at first sight, and then it would be all about mindless pampering and sweetness. This coincided with Mila's original intention of trying to get together with a wealthy young master. I didn't care, even if she didn't snatch it. My choice would still be the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse. I wasn't interested in revolving around a man. Seeing that I calmly accepted the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse, Mila gloated and said, "Sure enough, you're suitable for farming for a lifetime." Not long after, a team of survivors looking for supplies knocked on my door. At first, they didn't want to accept more survivors. After hearing that I had the ability to accelerate planting, they accepted me and were willing to take my mother and me away. However, Mila was delicate and weak, and she also had a difficult mother to serve. The teammates didn't want to take her with them. Helplessly, the halo of the heroine of the innocent and pampered genre that Mila had took effect. The powerful figure leading the team, Thomas, fell in love with her at first sight, despite the opposition of his teammates. He firmly demanded that Mila be taken along. In the previous life, relying on the luck of the heroine of the innocent and pampered genre, Mila did have a good life for a while. Mila had no combat ability, was arrogant in nature, and was picky about food. She wouldn't even touch ordinary food. She only drank unopened bottled mineral water. When encountering zombies, she could only scream and cry, and she treated her teammates like slaves. The teammates were all dissatisfied with her, but because she was Thomas's girlfriend, they didn't dare to show any objection. Although Thomas doted on Mila, he wasn't mindlessly doting. Before long, he asked Mila to pick up a knife and start killing low-level zombies on the grounds that she should have the ability to protect herself. To be honest, Thomas was considerate enough. Instead of making Mila face powerful zombies from the beginning like others, he first asked her to exercise her body and then try to kill the zombies that he had cut off their limbs and had no mobility. It was a step-by-step process. Mila was unwilling to comply. She chose the system of the innocent and pampered heroine just to avoid facing these terrifying monsters. She just wanted to hide behind a man, get whatever she wanted, and be doted on obediently, so she refused in every possible way and wouldn't agree no matter what. But Thomas was also a real person. Mila kept crying and making a scene, and he got annoyed after being troubled by her many times. Before long, he completely abandoned Mila. Without Thomas's protection, the people who had been offended by Mila before immediately began to bully her unscrupulously. They poured cold water on her in winter, asked her to eat leftovers, and used her as a punching bag to beat her. In order to survive, Mila could only choose to pick up a weapon and fight against the zombies, but she was weak in strength and timid. She couldn't even kill the lowest level zombies. Therefore, she could only have one meal a day and still couldn't get enough to eat. She was sent to keep watch at night and was always sleepy and hungry. Mila suffered a great deal. Before long, she was tortured until she was skin and bones. During an outdoor mission, her teammates who didn't like her pushed her into the zombie horde, and she was eaten alive by the zombies. In contrast, because I chose the genre of farming, when planting crops, I had a built-in acceleration buff. I could stably and quickly provide high-quality vegetables and fruits for the team, and I was treated as the beloved of the team and protected. I not only didn't have to do anything, but I was also given an apartment with the subsidy from the base. I had meat for all 3 meals a day. If I needed anything, I just had to say it, and someone would bring it to me immediately. All the men that Mila had tried to flirt with came to me and competed to recruit me. In the previous life, almost every time I quickly looked up from the plant observation records, I could see Mila looking disheveled, staring at me with jealous eyes. I always knew that she hated me, but I didn't know the reason why. She hated me. Clearly, the path was chosen by herself, and I also gave her the opportunity to make the first choice. Although I didn't like her, I had never bullied her. 3. Why do they let me go and kill the zombies while they don't let you? They hate me so much but take such good care of you. It must be all because you have the luck of the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse. Mila said with deep malice in her eyes, but a proud smile on her lips. This time, it's me who will be protected by the teammates. You can also taste the feeling of being bitten to death by zombies alive. She's crazy, I cursed in my heart. Since Mila had bound the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse in advance, I could only bind the remaining genre of the innocent and pampered heroine. Looking at myself in the mirror, my originally ordinary eyebrows and eyes suddenly became alluring. I seemed to be completely transformed, changing from an ordinary person into a stunning beauty with every step. I didn't say anything. I just silently put on the thick black-rimmed glasses. Although the genre of the innocent and pampered heroine was rather useless, relying on myself, I wasn't unable to survive. My mother looked at me worriedly. Gabriella, are you feeling unwell? I shook my head and gave her a sweet smile. Don't worry, Mom, I'm fine. When my aunt saw how beautiful I became after binding the genre of the innocent and pampered heroine, her eyes widened immediately. She grabbed Mila and complained, "Why didn't you choose this? Choosing that farming thing? We're supposed to live the life of a rich lady. What's the point of farming?" Mila pushed my aunt's hand away impatiently. My aunt's instigation played a big part in her choice of the genre of the innocent and pampered heroine in the previous life. "Mom, can you look further ahead? This is the apocalypse. Being good-looking can't fill your stomach. With this ability, we can easily grow a bunch of fruits and vegetables. We can choose any good man in the whole apocalypse." I was shocked. "No way, you regard the ability to accelerate farming as a capital to attract men. You really know how to play." My mother pulled me to the kitchen to have soup. She quickly accepted the information about the arrival of the apocalypse. She was naturally a person with extremely stable emotions. I searched out all the knives I could find in the kitchen. While sharpening the knives with a whetstone, I asked my mother, "Mom, what do you think now that the apocalypse has arrived? What else can I think?" My mother handed me the soup bowl. "You found all these. We'll take them. We'll just live well at all times." I smiled and gave her a thumbs up. "No wonder you're my mom. Your consciousness is really high." I grew up in a single-parent family. When my father passed away, my mother said the same thing. After that, she silently supported the whole family. Although it was tough, she never complained of being tired. I inherited her character. I'm calm when facing things, neither humble nor arrogant. While we were chatting, the doorbell suddenly rang. Without asking, I knew who it was. Mila clearly knew too, so she couldn't wait to open the door. There are people in this house. Let's go." "The next house. Hurry up and collect the supplies and leave quickly." The man with a cigarette in his mouth looked at Mila, who opened the door and said regretfully, "The big and burly man in front of me was my teammate from the previous life." How could Mila let them go? She quickly cleared her throat and said, "Big brother, are you still taking in people?" The big and burly man looked around the situation in the house and found that there were only 4 women who seemed to have no combat power. He immediately lost interest and roared, "No, do you think this is a bus stop in your house? Get lost and don't block our way." With the ability to accelerate crop planting, Mila immediately put on the airs of a talented person and snorted, "I have the ability to make plants grow quickly. It will be your loss if you don't take me with you." "Really?" A slender woman walked out from behind the crowd. She looked at Mila with shining eyes. Fresh fruits and vegetables were so rare in the apocalypse. If Mila could really accelerate the ripening of plants, she would be like a golden nugget. This woman was the wife of the big and burly man. Although she didn't have great strength, she had a good mind. Mila took out the seeds she had taken from my balcony and pinched them in her hand. Sure enough, the seeds sprouted rapidly, and a small green shoot emerged from her hand. I sighed in regret. If it wasn't planted in the soil quickly, this seedling would wither soon. She actually dared to waste one of my seeds. Didn't she know that every grain of food comes from hard work? Mila raised her head proudly and said, "See, you have soil boxes in the car. As long as it's the seeds I plant, the growth speed of any fruit can be doubled." Allison immediately held Mila's hand affectionately, and the other teammates also warmly greeted Mila. Mila was surrounded and flattered by them, and she received a completely different treatment from that in the previous life. She cast a provocative look at me, as if she wanted to see me sad or angry, but I might have disappointed her because I had no expression on my face. Mila didn't know that I actually didn't like these teammates, and I also hated the feeling of being surrounded by them, because they were all short-sighted and ungrateful people. But Mila didn't know this because she had never had close communication and understanding with them. Only I knew that they were like poisonous snakes. Once they saw their prey, they would wrap around it tightly until they devoured all the value of the prey. Mila kept looking at me. waiting for me to grovel and beg them to take me with them, just like she did in the previous life. Then she could continue to humiliate me. She thought she had hidden her thoughts well, but in fact, they were all on her face and could be guessed easily. For me, whether I go with them or not doesn't make much difference. Perhaps parting ways at this place is also a good choice. Seeing that I didn't react, Mila couldn't help but say, I have a good relationship with my cousin, let's take my cousin with us. Everyone's eyes turned to me following her words. Of course, I wasn't stupid enough to think that Mila was thinking of me. She was just afraid that she wouldn't be able to see me suffer the same torture she had experienced in the previous life with her own eyes. After sizing me up from head to toe, everyone showed a look of disgust. No one likes someone who looks like they will hold others back. I certainly understood this. Mila sneered, you have nothing but a pretty face. What are you being so high and mighty for? Hearing her say this, I smiled in my heart. I didn't expect her memory to be quite good. I had said the exact same thing to her in the previous life. In fact, she had asked me the question. Why do they like you? In the previous life, I was trimming the branches of a fruit tree with scissors at that time. Without thinking, I said, because you have nothing but a pretty face, and they don't need your face. In fact, I had said other things after that, and every sentence was more important than this one, but she seemed to have only remembered this sentence. I suddenly understood. So she thought I was mocking her at that time. 5. Seeing that Mila's attitude towards me wasn't very good, everyone immediately didn't have to scruple Mila's feelings anymore and began to discuss me unscrupulously. So short, with small arms and legs, you're not even enough to fill the gaps between the zombie's teeth. A young man with yellow hair walked out from the crowd. He looked at me up and down with a lecherous look and said with a lascivious smile, this girl is attractive. Call us something nice and make a few of us happy tonight. It's not that we can't take you with us, but your mother can't come. Everyone burst into laughter. My mother clenched my hand. I felt the warmth of her palm and knew that she was angry. I gently squeezed her hand to show that I was okay. Facing the laughter, I didn't say anything and didn't do anything. It's really not worth getting into a conflict with them now. Perhaps thinking that bullying me was too boring, or that I was too oblivious. The young man with yellow hair gave my shoulder a hard shove. My head slammed into the wall with a thud. I felt a sharp pain on the top of my head. I covered the wound, and physiological tears welled up in my eyes from the pain. Take her with us. A deep male voice came from behind the crowd. Thomas, the male protagonist of the novel about the innocent and pampered heroine, made his appearance. You're here to collect supplies, not to bully people. If I see you bullying others again, get out of the team, Thomas said sternly to the young man with yellow hair. The young man with yellow hair was too scared to say anything and shrank his neck back into the team. Thomas reached out and touched my head, saying softly, are you okay? I felt my eyelids twitching. In the previous life, he saved Mila in this way, and Mila believed it was true, thinking that Thomas was the Prince Charming who would shield her from the wind and rain in her life. Although I didn't say it, I noticed from the very beginning that Thomas had been observing from behind and just pretended to have arrived. He just wanted to appear in the guise of a savior. I suddenly had an epiphany. The novel about the innocent and pampered heroine. Yes, it's about pampering, but pampering doesn't mean loving you in this life. Since the one who bound the novel about the innocent and pampered heroine became me, the target of Thomas's favor naturally became me. I guess for Thomas, whether it was Mila in the previous life or me now, we were just little things that suited his taste and he couldn't resist taking away. I dodged his hand and said, I'm fine. If we're going, then let's go. Thomas seemed surprised that his trick didn't work. He raised his eyebrows and told everyone to pack up and get in the car. Since Thomas was the leader and he said he would take me with them, no one else dared to say anything. I picked up the longest kitchen knife and held it in my hand. I also gave my mother one and followed everyone downstairs. Humph. The teammates who were so nice to you in the previous life are now mocking you. You must be feeling really bad, right? Mila chased after me and stared at me intently. She couldn't believe that I still wouldn't feel bad after receiving such an embarrassing treatment. I don't care. I shrugged and stepped downstairs. Just as I said before, they were never good people. They were just fence-sitter, people who would shift their stance according to the situation. The fence-sitters assigned the seats in the car parked downstairs. There were clearly 2 seats left, but they blatantly pretended to be blind and sneered at me, saying, oops, there are no seats left. Please take your mother and sit in the trunk. It's better than nothing, isn't it? This scene was the same as in the previous life. However, in the previous life, my aunt didn't want to, and Mila even less so. She pestered Thomas with a lot of coquetry and easily managed to get extra seats arranged. The trunk was filled with various supplies. It would take 3 or 4 hours to drive to the survivor base. There was no doubt that staying in the trunk with these supplies for 3 hours would definitely be very uncomfortable. Thomas stood aside, seemingly waiting for me to yield to him. Fine, I'll sit there, but I was very optimistic, or rather, I wasn't someone who cared about the environment in the first place. My mother and I huddled in the trunk. My mother touched my face and said, "You've suffered." I smiled and said, "This isn't really suffering." 6. After 3 hours of bumpy driving, the car finally slowly stopped in front of the survivor base surrounded by villages. "Thomas seemed to have connections," he said something to the person at the gate, and that person immediately respectfully led us to a bungalow. The bungalow was spacious, with several rooms inside, and there was also an unplowed piece of land next to it. It was still the familiar place, but my identity this time was completely different. I felt a bit emotional. My mother and I were assigned to a small utility room, which was still filled with the previous owner's items. My mother and I cleaned it up for a long time. Fortunately, there was a folding bed in it. We spread out the quilt we found and could barely sleep on it. When I was throwing out the useless things, I saw Thomas standing aside. He was very tall, like a clothes hanger, lazily leaning against the wall and looking at me with interest. I ignored him, and he followed behind me, watching me as I was busy. This man is really difficult to deal with. Could it be that my status in his heart has changed from a little toy to a somewhat disobedient little toy now? I had a terrible headache. This novel about the innocent and pampered heroine was like some stinky solid thing stuck to me, and Thomas was a dog. There are many beautiful women, but I'm different from them. Don't have any ideas about me, I couldn't help but say coldly when the tall figure blocked my way back to the room. "Oh, what's the difference between you and them?" Thomas asked with a smile, with a deep look of disapproval on his face. I looked up at him with firm eyes and said, "I'm an agriculture major. Compared with farming, Mila can't compare with me." Thomas pondered for a while and then said, "Then let the two of you have a competition. The time limit is 1 month. Whoever grows the crops better will be in charge of the farmland cultivation here. However, if you lose, you have to obediently listen to me. At that time, I won't be as easy to talk to as I am now." Thomas was smiling, but I could hear the displeasure and threat in his voice. "During this 1 month, you must go out and kill zombies with your teammates during the day. I don't care about you at other times. Killing zombies during the day and taking care of the crops at night, and taking good care of the crops." It sounded very difficult, but it wasn't impossible to achieve. I readily agreed. Thomas also kept his word. He asked someone to mark out 2 small areas that were far apart on the adjacent land, built a simple fence with wood around them, and pointed them out to Mila and me respectively, without the blessing of the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse. "You still want to compete with me?" Mila was like hearing a joke. "Gabriella, why do you have to bring shame upon yourself?" After seeing Mila's ability, the other people in the team gathered around her, trying to gain some benefits from her. Naturally, they looked down on me who had no special ability. "Just you, with your delicate appearance. You can farm. Don't waste the seeds." I ignored their sarcastic remarks. I silently tidied up the weeds on the piece of land allocated to me, and then went to find a hoe to turn over the soil. Mila looked down on me haughtily, turned around, and left with her followers. Mila must think that she can win, and win easily, but she has thought everything too simply. The luck of the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse can only control the growth speed of crops, but not the quality of the plants. The base needs fresh fruits and vegetables, not just those that grow fast but have poor quality. Mila majored in dance. She has never even watered the flowers at home by herself. She hardly knows anything about how to take care of these crops. Maybe in her eyes, it's as simple as sowing the seeds and then watering them every day. For me, who has been working hard in the field every day for my graduation thesis, it would be great if it were really that simple. 7. Thomas gave Mila and me each a pack of fruit radish seeds. I let out a sigh of relief. There are also different varieties of fruit radishes, and the seeds he gave us happened to be the kind that could mature in about a month. If it were other crops, it would be difficult for them to mature within a month. Without the ability to accelerate growth, I naturally couldn't compare with Mila in terms of production speed, and the result of the competition wouldn't be intuitive. However, I didn't rush to sow the seeds. Mila, on the other hand, planted them as soon as she got them. The way she planted them was also very simple and crude. She didn't turn over the soil. She just dug a hole directly, threw the seeds in, then covered the soil, and gently touched the soil with her hand. The plants then sprouted from the soil. Cousin, why are you standing there? Could it be that you think you can't compare with me and just give up? Mila sneered when she saw me holding the seeds and not moving. I ignored her. The more you pay attention to this person, the more excited she gets. It's better to treat her like air. During the day, I followed my teammates to collect supplies outside the base early in the morning. Although I lost a lot of weight after binding the novel about the innocent and pampered heroine, I still had my strength. I swung the knife to kill zombies, one with each stroke, quickly and accurately, without any hesitation. It's hilarious. After all, I've been carrying a hoe and a shovel in the field every day. How could my strength be small? However, my teammates still ostracized me. Either they asked me to scout the way, or they asked me to walk alone on other separate paths. For me, I was actually happy to have some peace. As I walked, I picked up some things that looked like they could be used as fertilizer, such as rotten fruits, good stuff, broken eggshells without the cores, worth picking up, and zombie fragments. Well, it could barely be used. My mother was in poor health, but she was good at cooking. She was recruited by the base to cook communal meals, although this job wasn't easy. It was safe. When I returned to the base, I crushed all the things and mixed them together, sprinkled them on the land as fertilizer, and then sowed the seeds, dragging my tired body back to the room. As soon as I entered, I saw my aunt pulling my mother, with a haughty expression on her face. Since your Gabriella has become beautiful with that thing, she should hurry up and find a good man, otherwise, it would be a waste of that pretty face. What's the point of farming? Don't always think about being a country bumpkin. My mother had just finished working in the base kitchen. Her hands were red from holding the large spoon. My aunt, relying on Mila's ability, had been treated as an honored guest these days and was living a good life, looking energetic. This could be considered her special triggered plot. Every time she felt that she was living a good life, she would come to meet my mother. My aunt married a wealthy boss with some spare money because of her somewhat good looks. She benefited from this theory of appearance and liked to promote it everywhere. She had a competitive personality. When she was young, she compared her appearance with my mother's. When she grew up, she compared who married better. When she got old, she compared their daughters. She thought she was living a better life than my mother, so she especially liked to come to my mother every month at a fixed time, put on a superior expression, and show off to my mother in every possible way. She was so diligent in visiting relatives that even the neighbors knew her. Mila learned from her mother. From childhood to adulthood, she had to outdo me in everything. Was it meaningful? My mother and I both thought it wasn't, but they never got tired of it. A few days later, I had just exhausted myself killing several zombies and was lying on the ground gasping for breath. Suddenly, I found several plants with strange appearances in the adjacent field. They were small purple serrated seedlings. They weren't noticeable at first, but the weeds next to them were growing particularly lush. I walked around and found that there were no other factors affecting the uneven growth of the weeds. Then I dug up these seedlings that I had never seen before. I carefully planted these seedlings near my radish seedlings. The next day, I was immediately delighted to find that the growth speed of my radish seedlings was a bit faster than usual. Could it be that planting them together with this strange plant would make the growth speed of the crops faster? I was both delighted and regretful. I was delighted that I had found a way to replace the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse. I was regretful that I had only found it after the apocalypse. If I had found this grass before the apocalypse, I could have written my thesis for another 10 years with it, from undergraduate to doctoral studies, just like that. During the day, I went out to kill zombies, and at night, I returned to my room to take care of my group of radish seedlings. That small bud with a strange appearance was particularly delicate. After killing 3 of its siblings and making 2 large notebooks of observation records, I finally figured out the rules for growing it. If I could keep it alive according to the rules, then I would win, and I would win without a doubt. Looking at it growing vigorously, I let out a long sigh of relief. This time, I finally won. I hadn't seen Mila much recently. She hardly came to the field. She just touched the plants with her hand every night when she came back to make them grow quickly. A few days after arriving, my aunt urged her to get to know more young talents with status in the base. She also thought the same way, so, relying on her planting ability, she really got to know several men with status in the base and was busy shuttling between them. She only spent 5 minutes every night touching the radishes to make them grow a little taller. The leaves of her radishes had already grown very tall, twice as tall as the leaves of radishes planted normally. The long radish leaves made the radishes that were exposed also look long. I silently covered the radishes that were exposed from the soil with a layer of soil. Before giving everyone a surprise, my big radishes couldn't be discovered. Is it necessary? Thomas asked me when he saw me coming out to fetch water and water the land in the middle of the night. What's necessary or not? I didn't want to pay attention to him, so I perfunctorily replied. I mean, is it necessary for you to work so hard? Thomas showed an incredulous expression. I knew that he had been observing me these days, but I hadn't looked at him directly. During this period, it wasn't that he hadn't tried to talk to me, but he was even less important to me than a radish in the field. Every time he tried to talk to me, he failed. Clearly, as long as you yield to me, act coquettishly, and be with me, I can give you everything you want. Aren't you working so hard just to have a better life in the apocalypse? These days, I had been getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning. The excessive fatigue every day made me lose a lot of weight. If you asked me if I wasn't suffering, I was, very much so, but I knew that this was only temporary, as long as I got through this period and proved to them that I had value different from ordinary people. I could get rid of this kind of life. I originally wanted to see how long you could endure. I didn't expect you to really be able to endure it. You've endured it for more than half a month like this. Thomas took out a cigarette and lit it, saying slowly, Hey, I'm not joking, be with me, it's not just for fun, I'll take you to meet my parents, we'll get married, after we get married, I'll recommend you to the base, and the treatment will definitely be much better than it is now. I was shocked. This person actually regarded marrying him as a reward. Why are you so greedy? I'll farm for you and I also have to marry you. Open your mouth and let me see if you have teeth, otherwise, why are you so shameless? Thomas was probably treated like this for the first time in his life. Suddenly, his face turned cold with anger, and the pressure around him was so intense that it seemed as if it could crush people to death. But it couldn't crush me. I'm a non-Newtonian fluid. Fine, fine. Thomas was so angry that he laughed. He took a step forward, enveloping me in his tall shadow. Mila came to see me today. She said her radishes are already ripe and asked me to end the competition tomorrow. It's only the 18th day now. Without those sprouts that can accelerate ripening, my radishes would only be half-grown at this moment. However, now I have those sprouts that can accelerate ripening. Hey, you didn't expect it, did you? My radishes are also ready, unlike what Thomas had expected. That I would hang my head in despair, cry bitterly, and beg him to extend the competition. I casually gave him the middle finger and said, Then see you tomorrow. 9. The result of the competition was, of course, within my expectations, but it surprised everyone else. Although Mila's ability could make plants grow quickly, it couldn't make the plants grow rapidly independently without a proper nutrient environment for absorption. Therefore, the tireless growth would only lead to the hollowness of the crops, continuously sending the nutrients that should have been accumulated in the fruits to the growth of the branches and leaves. As a result, when Mila's radishes were dug out, they were only small. Not believing in this outcome, she dug up all the radishes in the field. All these radishes had long radish leaves, but the radishes underneath were pitifully small. Taking a bite, they were neither crispy nor sweet, and tasted as insipid as chewing wax. I certainly knew what Mila was thinking. She had never farmed before and thought that if the radish leaves were long, the radishes underneath would be big. In contrast, the radish leaves of my radishes were of moderate length. When I pulled out one radish, it was not only big but also had a fresh green and beautiful appearance. It was sweet and slightly spicy, with a rich taste. The effect of the ripening accelerating grass allowed me to win this turnaround battle brilliantly and completely. Mila went crazy. She rushed up and grabbed me tightly. Why, clearly, you planted them like this in the previous life. Why are the radishes I planted different from yours? Why? I pushed her away and said word by word, Do you think I had a good life in the previous life just because of the luck of the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse? She only saw that when I reached out, the plants would grow obediently, but she didn't see that I soaked in the field day and night, doing research, making records, and developing new varieties. She only saw the base's importance attached to me and the bright and glamorous life I led, but she couldn't see the equal efforts and contributions I made behind the scenes to deserve the treatment. Looking at her eyes as lifeless as ashes, I said softly, Don't forget, I'm an agriculture major. 10. Now the status between me and her has been reversed again. Those teammates who had crowded around her yesterday stood by my side today. They not only bowed and scraped to apologize to me but even turned around and started to bully Mila to show their favor to me. My talent was discovered by the base staff who came for inspection. They allocated a larger house to me and asked me to guide the development of the base's agriculture. I moved to the new house with my mother. The new house was far from here. The 3 meals a day were sumptuous. I only needed to stay in the greenhouse every day to do the cultivation work. The staff treated me very well, except for Thomas's occasional harassment. I was quite satisfied with my current life. As for Mila, I didn't plan to have any contact with her. I wouldn't deliberately humiliate her, nor would I deliberately pay attention to her. If I hadn't come back to get something I had forgotten half a month later, I might never have met Mila again in this life. Mila seemed to have returned to the days after she was abandoned by Thomas in the previous life. This time, she didn't have the luck of the genre of the innocent and pampered heroine, and she couldn't use the ability of the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse. The men she had hooked up with before never saw her again after they found she was useless, and her former friends also turned against her and bullied her every day. Naturally, my aunt's situation became worse following Mila's. After living like this for a short time, she couldn't stand it anymore and ran away from the base with an old man. I wasn't surprised by this. After all, in the previous life, she also eloped with someone, leaving her biological daughter behind. As for the result of the elopement, I guessed it wouldn't be better than Mila's situation. Mila was unkempt every day, doing hard work but eating less than anyone else. When I saw her again, she had become so thin that she was unrecognizable. With a dull look in her eyes, she was kneeling on the ground. Her clothes were dirty and torn, and her body was covered with scars from battles and beatings. The woman who had affectionately held her arm before now had a fierce expression and slapped her hard. "Why are you so slow at washing the clothes?" When the woman saw me, she immediately put on a flattering look and came over to try to get on my good side. I turned around and left. The person sent by the base to protect me opened the car door for me. I got in the car and my eyes subconsciously looked outside. I met Mila's cold and gloomy gaze, which was full of hatred and unwillingness. She saw me, and naturally, she also saw my clean and bright clothes and my energetic mental state, compared with her current appearance like a beggar. We were worlds apart. I knew that she must hate me to the core now. The car door closed, completely blocking her view. Looking at her gaze like that, I suddenly had a premonition that she would come to find me again. 11. My premonition wasn't wrong. After several months of peaceful life, just when I thought Mila had given up on coming to find me, she suddenly appeared outside the greenhouse. At this time, I was patiently explaining to a newbie the method of cultivating that ripening accelerating grass. Mila, with her hair disheveled, stood behind me like a ghost. The newbie let out a scream in fright, because Mila was holding a shiny kitchen knife in her hand. Her pale face was so thin that her cheeks were deeply sunken in, and she looked like a madwoman. Why? Mila's eyes were red with tears streaming down her face in big drops. Why? Clearly, I chose the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse in advance in this life. Why am I still in such a situation? I'm so unwilling. The newbie was so frightened that she didn't know what to do. I didn't have much of a reaction. I patted her hand and told her to go and find someone. The newbie hesitated for a while. When Mila wasn't paying attention to her, she sneaked out to call for help. Mila stared at me intently. "Gabriella, you must be very proud, right? Why have you lived so well in both lives, and I've been so miserable? It's all your fault. It's all because of you. Why can you find the grass that can make plants grow quickly even after losing the luck of the genre of stockpiling goods and farming in the apocalypse? Why are you so lucky?" She approached me step by step with the knife raised. I didn't dodge. Now she hadn't lost all her rationality. If I ran away, it would only stimulate her and make her even crazier. "Gabriella, let's go to hell together. No one will have a good time." She laughed miserably. "Mila," I said calmly, "do you remember what I said when you asked me in the previous life?" Mila was stunned. She seemed not to expect that I would talk about this with her. When you look in the mirror, you can only see your own face, but when you lower your head, you can see your hands. I waved my hands, which had a thick layer of calluses on them. Everything I have was obtained with these hands. It was the same in the previous life, and it's the same in this life. You actually know very well, right? Even if there wasn't this ripening accelerating grass and my radishes weren't ripe, they were still better than yours. This is something that anyone with eyes can see. So, it was only a matter of time before I won. Looking at the emaciated Mila, I just said softly, "Whether it was in the previous life or this life, your initial choice wasn't wrong, But what have you done for your choice? Mila and I grew up together. I knew her too well. She had received the misleading education from my aunt since she was a child. What she pursued was just making a choice and then having a carefree life. For example, marrying a rich man and then relying on his money and power to live a comfortable life. Mila, do you really understand what you want? The one who caused your tragic ending is yourself. Why are you comparing yourself with me? Do you really think you're happy just because you're better off than me? Happiness? Mila was stunned. It seemed that she was seriously thinking about this question for the first time. Her chapped and pale lips were trembling and muttering, "If you still have the courage now, then leave this base, leave all the people here who know you and go to a place where no one knows you. You still have the ability to plant. As long as you're willing to learn and endure hardship, you have the opportunity to start anew." I rubbed my temples wearily. With a clear, clang, sound, the bright kitchen knife slipped out of Mila's hand and fell into the soil. Getting covered in dust, Mila suddenly covered her face, and her body slowly knelt to the ground. Then, she broke down and burst into heart-wrenching sobs. "But it's too late, but it's too late." 12. Mila was taken away by the bodyguards who came, like a piece of wood. Soon, I heard them say that Mila somehow got some medicine and put it in the pot while cooking. Those teammates who had bullied her on a daily basis were now lying in the base hospital. Although there was no news yet, it was estimated that they were all dead. After poisoning her teammates, she came to find me with a kitchen knife. I didn't know what punishment the base would give her, but I knew that she couldn't escape death. But I guessed that for her now, death was a small matter. Instead, the deep regret that gnawed at her bones tormented her even more painfully. "I heard that Mila went to find you with a knife." I was really shocked. Thomas circled around me curiously. "Did she suddenly have a change of heart, or were you able to overpower her with your bare hands?" I was observing the growth of the crops in each field one by one and then doing my daily routine of making records. Seeing that I ignored him, Thomas chattered behind me, trying to find topics to talk about. "Didn't you say before that you don't like cigarettes?" "I quit smoking. For you." I was so annoyed by his chatter that my pen slipped, and the words in the observation diary went all over the place. I couldn't stand it anymore and looked up. "You're so ridiculous. What does my not liking cigarettes have to do with your quitting smoking? Don't tie us together. The only benefit your quitting smoking brings to me is that I inhale less secondhand smoke." Thomas was taken aback, and his eyes began to redden slightly. He turned his head away. "Well, then I quit smoking for myself." I reached out and gave him the middle finger. Realizing what I did, I awkwardly changed it to a thumbs up. "Good, for your health." A mechanical female voice sounded. "Congratulations to the two hosts for obtaining the apocalyptic transmigration system. As for giving some respect to your 3 consecutive questions, I used the same format as you. I won't consider it in this life, won't consider it in the next life, and won't consider it in the life after that either." Thomas seemed to be stuck in the greenhouse and couldn't be driven away. "Then you don't plan to get married?" I waved my hand. "I'm going to marry this piece of land." Thomas rolled up his sleeves regardless and walked into the field to start working. He said shamelessly, "The 3 of us living a good life together is better than anything else." My face darkened. "Get lost, you mistress wannabe." When it was time to get off work, I finished all my work, changed out of my work clothes, and prepared to go home. Thomas silently followed behind me. These days, he had always taken it for granted that he would send me home, but my home was very close to where I worked, and I didn't see the point of his behavior. When we were parting, Thomas suddenly smiled with a sense of relief. There was an unerasable look of reluctance between his eyebrows and eyes. "Sure enough, as you said, you're different from those women. Forget it, I won't bother you anymore in the future. Just leave. Why do you still have to talk nonsense?" This man really knows how to add drama to himself. I was in an especially good mood because I was about to get rid of Thomas, this loathsome person. I sneered and said, "I'm different from those women, but you're just like those men." 13. When I got home, it was already dark, the lights were on at home, and my mother came out of the kitchen while untying her apron. "Gabriella, you're back. The meal is just cooked and still warm." "Mom, you're the best." I pounced on her and hugged her neck. The aroma of the soup, the warm and cozy light, and the smile on my mother's face. The scene at this moment completely overlapped with that in the previous life. I don't know why, but I felt a warmth in my eyes, and teardrops fell on my mother's fluffy sweater. Blooming like a small flower, I thought that the life I wanted was now within my grasp.